Brought ghosted.
Lauren brought candy.
You steal those from Sarah? too?
Uh-huh, yeah, no, those are mine. All right, good evening, everybody. Monday, May 4th, regular meeting of the Windsor Heights City Council, roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Here.
Joseph Jones.
Here.
Fletcher Berry.
Here.
Lauren Campbell.
Here.
And Therese Harms will be in momentarily.
Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
3, presentation from the Metro Waste Authority.
Yeah, got it. I know that button. All right. All right, good evening. Appreciate it, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, residents. Appreciate the time. Metro, it's time for Metro to get back around and fill you in on where we've been. It's been a little while, and maybe give you some highlights of where we're headed as well. First slide, we'll talk about our facilities. This gives you an overview, a bit of where we're located. Metro Park East Landfill, that's our major landfill out at Mitchellville, kind of Runnels-Mitchellville area. You know, that is by far the largest landfill that we have, but also the largest landfill in the state of Iowa by about 4 times in any other. At that landfill, we have about 1,000 vehicles coming through on a daily basis. Contrast that to Metro Park West, which is up 10 miles outside of Perry. And that one has vehicle counts of about 40 to 50 coming in on a daily basis. 3,500 tons coming in at the East Landfill. Not only the largest in Iowa, but we are one of the largest in the region when it comes to other states around us as well. The recycling facility, our newest facility right now, Metro Recycling Facility in Grimes and the overpass. As you're going over the overpass, you'll see that large 100,000 square foot concrete building. That's the recycling facility. And again, we'll talk about that in a few slides. But when it was built, the most high-tech recycling facility in North America. Right now, we're still around number 2 or 3, and we continue to try to jump back up to 1 or 2 constantly. Recently adding some robots to the mix that are doing some of the sorting for us, and then some optical readers. Again, at any of these facilities, you're all welcome to come out and do tours, your residents, your staff, and council and mayor. Northwest Transfer Station, that is on the Grimes campus. That is where we bring in all of the trucks from your city. They dump there multiple times a day. We get to keep them on the street, doing it more efficiently and cost effectively for your residents that way. And then we take semis from that facility and we take those to the landfill ourselves. About 4.5 garbage trucks can fit in a semi. And so it's well worth the fee for that, to have that available to you. Metro Central Transfer Station, that's on Delaware and kind of North Des Moines. And that is, again, another transfer station. The garbage trucks dump. We load semis from the top in a tunnel, and they take those out. That's predominantly Des Moines and Ankeny for that one. Hazardous waste facilities, just left a meeting this morning on this one. We do have 2, one large facility in Bondurant, and then a small kind of drop-in facility in Grimes. That's about to increase for the western suburbs, that where it's going to be a little bit more permanent. And on that campus, we had at the recycling facility, we thought ahead a bit to put 2 pads out there that we can then build buildings on later. That's now coming to the western suburbs for hazardous waste. Central office, that's our main office downtown in East Village at 300 East Locust. We have a compost center that we've now co-located. It was separate, co-located at Metro Park East. We'll talk about compost in a minute as well. And then the redemption centers, those are for bottles and cans and bottles of the 5-cent redemptions. As everybody pulled out, we were asked to get in. And so we have opened 2 at this point, and they are doing very well, I must say. We have redeemed extra that would have not have been redeemed before, over 2 million of these redemption cans, bottles in the last couple years since we bought a new piece of equipment for that as well. Again, very smart piece of equipment that does all the sorting for us and puts us exactly where we need it to go, and will do, 20,000, 30,000 in an hour of those cans. So a little bit about you specifically, Windsor Heights. We do the garbage recycling and yard waste. We do the contracting for you, right? So we contract the hauler. We manage your contracts. We do that for about every city. We have 16 members on our board, or 17 members on our board. Almost left Polk County out. That wouldn't have done well. Would have opened up more discussion, wouldn't it? So 17 members, 16 cities, and then Polk County on our board, all elected officials sitting on that board. And Susan, thank you for your time. You've put in a lot of time on this board. She's also our co-chair, which if everything goes right, we can get you into the chair sooner than next year. No, Rob wouldn't like to hear that. Rob gives me grief because I always say, is anyone else going to put their name in for chair? And Polk City being the chair, but Susan is the vice chair, up for chair in a year. And then Trees Harms been very pivotal to our programs in the past as well. So thank her as well. So those rates, where we negotiate your rates, we can proudly say it is one of the lowest rates in the region and probably the lowest rates in the state of Iowa when it comes to the entire package of what you're getting to where it's headed to the landfill. And then some other things, the outreach, the school field trips, the classroom visits, and then our now award-winning Ready, Set, Recycle program at the recycling facility for kids to drop in on Mondays and Fridays is a lot of fun to go in there. Sometimes I find myself, if I don't have a meeting, just hanging out and watching the fun. They have a blast up there. And then we get them out on the field as well. So some of those benefits we were just discussing, we want to be a strong community partner. That's what we try to do. And Cassie Riley's here with me today. She's in charge of that community relationships through both your cities and the community residents as well. Does a fantastic job. So if you're ever in need of something, reach out to Cassie and we will get that taken care of. But we take all the phone calls. Well, sorry, staff, Windsor staff, we don't take them all, do we? But we try to take most of them, right? We're trying to take most of them. We've brought that in-house call center in-house now, instead of having your folks calling Illinois or Massachusetts or something else to a call centers out there. We've brought that all in-house. And at the tune of 62,200 phone calls last year, we launched a chatbot. I think Cassie still is refusing to put the chatbot's name in here because they're all, it's a little competition between me and everyone else. Her name is Beatrice. And she answers calls, answers chats, and any question. She's done almost 8,000 of those this year alone and learns as we go as well. 9,177 cart deliveries. Again, I say that because we put that in-house. We now have it that we're doing it ourselves instead of you waiting 10 days to get a new cart or to get your wheel fixed or a new lid. We pride ourselves on doing it in about 48 hours. Staff, again, will grimace when I say that because they say we still like that 5-day window, but we strive for 24 to 48 hours in that. All right. In the meantime, we're not just doing Windsor Heights. We manage curbside services for 109,000 homes. And so it is a busy days down at the office for customer care. Curbside, what does it mean? We do your garbage. Curbside programs is the garbage recycling and the yard waste. All that's collected today comes out to our facility in Mitchellville. And we constantly, for the questions that will come, how long do you have at Mitchellville and the landfill? We're constantly buying land out there. And we'll buy anything that comes near us. One, we're our best neighbor. But two, we know that in the next 100 years, that's our job, is to think 50 to 100 years out and to make sure that there is ability to put your garbage in there in 50 to 100 years. It seems strange, but there's one thing that's sure is garbage will be made every day, right? And so what are we going to do with it? And then also getting very innovative and with technology, what can happen there. So 1,794 tons of garbage coming out to us, recycling at 266 tons. I'd like to see that flip. That probably won't happen in my lifetime, but we're going to give it a try, right? Where we can get more in the recycling than we do in the garbage. So the answer to the question of the garbage in the landfill, today we're permitted out to 2080, that we should be fine on that. And really, with a couple tweaks and a couple permits, we should be able to be permitted far past that as well. We own 2,000 acres out at that landfill. Not all of it will be landfill purpose, but we have quite a ways to go before we have any scares. That is unlike the majority of landfills in the state of Iowa. They are either closing, becoming transfer stations, or asking us to take their garbage altogether. And so that is probably one of the two largest threats we have as an agency, is the amount of landfills closing around the state, and what our role is going to be. It's a constant discussion with the board, what our role should be. Yard waste, as I was discussing, we do the yard waste program. It's been a very big success for us here in the last 5 years. Yard waste, anything coming out off your streets in the bags or in bundles, comes out to our program in Mitchellville. We are then making that into compost, a very high quality compost, and selling it now, as you can see, in our private label bag at Hy-Vee's, True Values, Ace Hardwares. We're moving out of this area, and we're actually bringing some of the supplies into Council Bluffs as well. Why Council Bluffs? Because we do all the recycling. Everything recyclable in Council Bluffs that's collected at the curb comes to us in Grimes. We sort and sell the commodities for them. So we're going to be shipping compost out to those Hy-Vee's, True Values, and that. We've turned that program around 180 degrees here, and it is doing really well. We sell in bulk, and we just started selling bulk in Grimes as well, as you can get the bags at any one of our facilities, and then the places I named, a True Value and Hy-Vee and such. You can find that all online with us. We are actually going to have that compost certified organic this year, and we think we will get that certification, which is a big deal in the composting world. I'm trying to go fast because I know your nights are long. Recycling, drop-offs in Windsor Heights. You led the way for us, and we appreciate it. You were the first that took a chance on us when it came to cardboard drop-offs that you have at your park. I think that one is one of our heaviest used facilities. And so we thank you. It wasn't an easy decision, I know, at the time of selling you on and selling Public Works on yet another thing that people could, drop off junk and garbage and all that stuff at. We try to police it, and it's why we made it in-house as well, is so we could respond immediately when you phone call us and say there's something there that's not supposed to be there, or it's full and we can get out. We started that program with one truck and 2 days a week when you all started with us. We now have 3 trucks, and we're going, 2 trucks are going 6 days a week. And we have a 3rd truck coming. And so this program has really blown up. The Holiday Lights recycles 113 pounds. That's impressive for your town. That is a program, again, the drop-offs we're doing. And scrap tires recycled in FY25, 1.97. That's a lot of tons for Windsor Heights. I don't know what's happening with your tires, but that's a lot. But it's good because
joke there, right?
not potholes. It's not potholes. I'm just saving staff here. It's not potholes. Sticking up for them. But it's a great program, because if we didn't have that program, they're sitting in backyards, they're mosquito magnets, they're filling up with water, or they're going into the county ditches. And so that's a great program to have as well. Another drop off. Appreciate your participation in this. Sorry, you probably didn't have a choice with Susan as the vice chair, but it's been a great program. As you can see, 732 pounds coming out of this town. Again, where are you all using these batteries, right? But it's great, because you'll find in the next slide is going to be why we need those out of your garbage and out of our facilities, and even your garbage trucks. So 732 pounds. We set out a goal last year of July 1 with the DNR. Approving it of 10,000 pounds would be impressive if we could collect that in a year. We started with these boxes. They're all custom-made boxes. We had a lot of fire marshals input on these, as you can imagine, before we could put them into your facilities, and rightfully so. But 732 pounds, 14,000 pounds now. We've crushed the number of 10,000, and we still have till June 30th to go on this program. So kudos to all of you. What type of batteries? Every battery you can think of. Any battery you can take out of something, put it in that box. We're not going to stipulate alkaline or lithium. We really need the lithium. Alkaline can technically go into the landfill, but just so there's no confusion, put everything in that box. We'll take care of the sorting later. Why? This is why. Facility fires, they're happening probably every other day. We have a fire at one of our facilities. Mostly they're manageable with fire extinguishers and other devices that we use. We fight a lot of these fires. The majority of the fires we fight in-house, and we have a crew for that. And then, as you can see in the landfill in October 2025, that's just the picture we chose. We could have chose every 3 months. We could have had a good picture for you. And those seem to start, the big ones like this one seem to start after 1 a.m. when they want us to all get up and go out there and hang out in the garbage till 8 or 9 in the morning. But that's all hands on deck, including myself and the rest of the management staff go out there. Again, those fires need dirt and some water, but mainly dirt. So we need dozers. What's starting the majority of these fires? Lithium batteries. They'll start them in your house, in your garbage can. They'll just combust. But certainly when you run over them, they will blow up. If you watch any YouTube video, please watch YouTube. Don't try it at home. If you strike it with a hammer or run over it, they'd explode. And it's quite the fire immediately at that point. The bottom one is a little depressing because 3 years after we opened, 2023, so 2 years after we opened, we had a major fire that even you, Windsor Heights, responded to, and I appreciate that for the fire department. It took, I think we had 9 departments out there. It looked bigger than what it was. You could see it from my house in Clive when I came out of my house and got the phone call. But again, that was a lithium battery, put us out of business for 2.5 months. And it was about $2.5 million in damage in that facility. We did not miss a beat when it came to your residents or any other residents for the recyclables, but it was quite a task not to miss a beat when you had your entire facility down for 2.5 months. Staff did a fantastic job and pulled that off. But again, in 2024, we had 8 fires. In 2025, we have 21 fires. And in 2026, we've already had 9 fires that we count. We don't count every fire, but significant ones. At 9, we're going to crush the year before's numbers if we keep going at this rate. And so we need to do better, and it starts with at home as well. I think, yeah. Hazardous waste, as we discussed, 2 permanent drop-offs at the Metro plus house side service. 64 residents from Windsor Heights disposed of their waste in 2025. We can do better than that. And so let's key on the house side service comment. We can do better. Why? Because we haven't done a great job at Metro on really advertising and marketing our house side service. That is a red bin that you used to kind of recycle in, those green ones, but they're red. For hazardous waste, they're red. We will actually bring one to your house, drop it off, you fill it. There's a small price, and you fill it, and we then come back and pick it up and take it with us and handle the whole thing. That is going to really be heavily launched in the next 6 months. I think that program will really take off. And then we'll be adding other things to that service. If we're coming to your house anyways, do you need stickers for your yard waste, bags for your yard waste? Do you need your cans picked up? Any of that stuff will be a full service for your residents when we launch that program in its new phase. So a good program to watch for. Conservatively, I think it'll double what you're bringing to us in tonnage. Okay. I went through that fast and there's so much more to share. I will leave you with this just so when you hear about it, you're not surprised. It's a good thing. We have some major projects coming up. As you know, some of you may know, others I'll kind of fill you in. My goal at Metro Waste Authority, we've only taken one loan out before in my 10.5 years. Or bond or anything. That bond was through Polk County. Thankfully, they gave us their bonding capacity for the recycling facility. We could have paid cash for that facility, but why when it just hit, we got really lucky. It hit during COVID. We used their bond capacity and we got 1.3% interest on those bonds. And so why would we use our own money on something like that? The projects in the future, we try to use our money so we don't go against your debt service, right? It's important to every city not to have us adding to the debt service unless we really need something huge. We have some big projects coming up, but I think we can handle them. One is a wastewater treatment plant. We need to come in-house with that. Things are changing. The rules and regulations are changing. The WRA doesn't really want our liquids that are going through the garbage with PFAS and the levels of other contaminants. They're taking it because you are the WRA, right? And you're also Metro Waste Authority, so they don't want to cut us completely off. But we have had Boone and Perry cut us off now of leachate. It costs $900,000 to manage leachate a year. And so the ROI on our own wastewater treatment plant, plus I'm a big believer, and the board is on taking care of your own house, right? What we can do inside our facility ourselves, we should be doing and taking care of that. And that includes wastewater treatment plants. It's not going to be cheap, but we've got to do it for the future of this of landfills. The second one is a major maintenance facility. I mean, we're talking $30–40 million. We're running off a maintenance facility that is around 30 years old. Some of our bulldozers and compactors don't even fit in the doors. We make do and it's fine for now, but we need to plan for what's in the future as we move this landfill south. We put a new facility up at that point. I think the last one I'll talk about is exciting. It's going in now. It's a turbine, a micro turbine to produce electricity up in Perry. We will be producing all the electricity for the landfill up in Perry on our own through landfill gas. We're flaring now. We'll be putting a micro turbine in with a grant, partial grant from DNR and a partial grant from IEDA, and then we'll throw in the rest of the money. And that will, one turbine will use a half of the electricity for our facility. We will sell the other half on the grid for now, and we have a capacity to put on 3 more turbines. And I am currently in talks with some partners that could come onto the site and use that electricity to do a 5x or 6x on, instead of selling it at 2.8 cents on a kilowatt on the grid, to get 5 to 6x minimum on that electricity to sell. ROI on that being about 3 years. So it's a no-brainer when it comes to that one. So that's going to be a fun project. It'll be really highlighted across the state as one of the first for what we're doing on a micro turbine basis, and then having a skid build out. So again, those are the type of things we're looking. Take care of our house first, get our electricity. Everything will be basically off grid unless we have an emergency. But even at that, we have 2 Tesla walls now out there that will run our entire scale house on solar. So we're a little ahead on those pieces on electric and water use. So that's it. If you have any questions.
Thanks for all the programming that you guys do. Learn at the landfill. Like, I never would have thought that would be a day at the landfill would be something to be putting on my calendar. But
For
my
the
son,
family night?
oh yeah, yep. And then the recycling, the educational center, we got to go out there shortly after it opened, thanks to Susan. And my son now audits our recycling and what we should have recycled and we didn't. So
Sorry about that. But
no, it's fantastic.
exactly
So
what we want.
it's a great investment. So thank you. And I know that there's always great turnout from your staff for our special events. And that really means a lot to us because it's super engaging for the kids, like at our Touch a Truck and at our Earth Day event too. So thank you.
Absolutely. Our staff does a fantastic job at those. And we're happy to be at any of your events, any of the city's events.
When is the drive-through was on my question. Is that the summer, is that a summer or fall, June? I knew it was,
Usually right around my birthday.
I thought it was coming up, but I wasn't.
Yeah,
Just saying.
it's your birthday party.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great event. I'll just give you one short, just 30-second story about that. When it was pitched to me by Leslie, our COO, I said, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. We're not doing that. We're not doing a night at the dang landfill. Who's gonna come to that thing, right? And she said, oh, it's always your ideas that are the best ideas, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh, that's true, but no. I said, all right, let's try it. 300 cars the first year. Right? 300. And she goes, now what? I'm like, yeah, well, we're doing it again next year. And by the way, it was a good idea, but we have consistently those numbers every year. So it's amazing. We have people come from all over the state for that thing. I guess I'm too close to it, right? I see it every couple times a week, but
Thanks to Cassie and the rest of the team for Sparky. He's gone on
Oh.
some fun adventures. We've gone everywhere across the Des Moines Metro. I think he's seen more than what some of the residents. So appreciate that, and a great way to, when people are like, why do you have this Sparky thing walking around with you? And it's
yeah,
usually he's in my bag, but it's like, well, let me tell you,
it's right.
this is so that we remember to recycle our batteries. And then it just, can start the conversation on the importance of recycling batteries and, where the location is and all of that. So
Yeah, that's been a fun one. Windsor Heights has really honestly led on the Sparky Adventures, but it's Flat Stanley, if you remember, but Sparky has been all over Windsor Heights and some with Susan and staff. So you missed, I even gave you some compliments earlier, but
Got a shot.
you'll have to listen to the recording. All right.
Any questions?
Yeah, sorry. I am curious how we stack up compared to the Metro. How much are we recycling compared to our neighbors? Are we on the forefront of that, or we have work to do?
That's a good question. I don't have the numbers for, but we'll get them to you.
it's not steady.
Yeah, what I will tell you, I was at the city of Des Moines this morning at 7 doing a presentation to them, and I told them they were doing terrible. I still don't know the number and where they relate, but I tell them they were doing terrible just so I could, take my poke at Des Moines, but also so that they would get on it. So I'll tell you, Fletcher, you're doing terrible. We need you to triple what you're doing.
All right.
No, but you're very steady. I don't know how we're going to push that number up. One thing to be proud of as the metro and the suburbs is our contamination rate, our garbage going into recycling is 11%. The national average is 25%. We visited some places before we built our facility at 50% garbage. And we're at 11. We're one of the nation's lowest. Now, I tell staff that stinks. We need to be 9%, right? But it goes along with, I'm telling you, your recycling is terrible and you need to be better. But you guys are doing really well on a per capita basis. So I just don't want you to,
Nope, all
Start slacking.
yeah. Keep going. It's a good question though. And we'll take a look and send out those numbers. Down at board meetings, when you come out of our board meeting, we have a chart outside with all the cities and it tells you your battery collection numbers so that we can have them push each other a little bit
Work hard, I like
and
that.
compete. Yeah.
I have last month's, because I took a picture of Sparky there.
Yeah.
So I have last month's standings, but I think.
Of
that was-
batteries.
Batteries, but I think that was before our Earth Day event too.
Oh.
So hopefully we took in 5-ish pounds of batteries.
If you look at it, I think it was 166 tons, if I remember, or 700,
Batteries?
no, recyclables in general. Can't remember, but anyways, your numbers,
66 tons of recycling.
266, yeah, that's pretty good for 2,000 homes.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
thank you very much.
Have a great evening.
Appreciate it.
All right, public hearing. 4A, public hearing on urban renewal plan amendment for the Windsor Heights Consolidated Urban Renewal Area.
Move to go into public hearing.
Second.
Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
Any public comment on the urban renewal area amendment?
Bob Bishop, 1128 64th Street. I got a notice in the mail last month, and I truly, sincerely hope everyone in this room gets that notice. You may have already got one. It's my 50th high school reunion. And so 1972, I was fortunate enough to go to Dowling High School. It was a brand new high school. And as I go to Dowling High School, I come down University and it pretty much ends at 70th. There's no street light. It's all grassland. Take a left on 73rd. There's a dry cleaner. There's a gas station on Buffalo and there's a gas station around the curb. That's it. That's all that was here. And in those days, it would go to the gas station, you got the ding ding, guy came out, filled your car, 30 cents a gallon. We wish for that, right? Anyway, at that time, we had 5 gas stations here at Windsor Heights. The 2 down there, we had one on 66th and University, one on 65th and University, and one on Hickman Road and 63rd Street. And then as you think over time, what's become of these gas stations? 63rd Street and Hickman was acquired, sold there. The 65th and 66th Street gas stations were part of a renewal program for the town square that we built. And I recall on the 65th Street, they hauled 40 truckloads of contaminated soil out of that station. The one on Buffalo, I don't know, and the other one is part of what we're talking about tonight. And as I think back through this, and as things have happened, it kind of reminds me of a saying Henry Ford had over 100 years ago. And there's not too many sayings attributed to Henry Ford, and I want to get it right. But when talking about change and repetition, he said, if you always do what you've done, you'll always get what you've got. You always do what you've done, you'll always get what you got. So I leave you with that. I do want to say, and I want to thank all the members of the council who volunteer their most valuable time to devote to the citizens of Windsor Heights. Thank you. I fully support this resolution. I hope you find the funding to complete this, because wasn't that many years ago we had a survey where the top 2 things, give us a nice park, fix our streets. I think this does that. Thank you very much. Oh, one more trivia on Mr. Ford. He made a 15 million Model Ts back over 100 years ago, but most people don't know what his wife drove. Electric car. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Um,
Any other public comment?
Nothing on Zoom.
Motion
Move
to
to
close.
close the public hearing.
Second,
Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
For I, consideration of resolution 2026-34, a resolution to declare necessity and establish a urban renewal area pursuant to section 4034 of the Code of Iowa and approve urban renewal plan amendment for the Windsor Heights Consolidated Urban Renewal Area.
So move.
Second,
Any further discussion or discussion?
I think it's appropriate, the things we've included. I don't have any concerns with them.
Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
4B, public hearing on adoption of Code of Ordinances for the City of Windsor Heights.
Move.
Second,
Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
AJ, a bit of a preface on this public hearing, if you wanted to.
Simran Corey has not given us the final clean language for the ordinance yet. We've had a conversation with them and we expect to have that next week, which would allow for the first reading at the second May meeting. So tonight is a public hearing, since we had set that, but the first reading will follow later this month.
Any public comment on the proposed Code of Ordinances?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second,
Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
Item 5, public forum. This is a time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. No action may be taken. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to no more than 5 minutes. Public comment? Consent agenda minus D and E.
Move to approve.
Second. Can I just ask a question? How many on the so on 6F, how many are we looking at for the finalists? Is it like 3 finalists, or do we have a number on that? Just curious for the, like, 2 finalists, 5 finalists, just depends on how many we receive, and then we go from there.
Adam, do you remember if Liz had a clear recommendation on that, or we're gonna wait and see who responds?
We were gonna wait till we see
Yeah,
who
wait and
responds
see, and then.
and then make a decision from there.
Okay.
Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
6D, tobacco permit for Bud and Mary's 7239 Apple Valley Drive. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
Do we have any information on their compliance checks or anything like that? I know I asked late today on that information.
Chief and I discussed, and there have not been any compliance issues with them. I couldn't tell you the last time there was a compliance check, but I think we did the full city several months back. And they were not on that.
So we don't know when they were last checked.
When was the last date of a tobacco compliance check across the city?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I just have, I continue to have concerns. We have a high density of tobacco retailers in our small area. And as Mr. Bishop said, if we want to make change, you can't keep doing things the way that you always do them. So
Further discussion? Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
no,
6E, tobacco permit Walmart, 1170 Street.
So move.
Second.
Discussion?
again, just a friendly reminder that we have kiddos who are getting access to these products at these establishments. And I understand that compliance checks don't show that, but in conversations, they are happening. So I think we need to be aware of that and understand that these continue to be the #1 cause of cancer deaths, and our state does have a cancer crisis. And the more tobacco sales we have, more locations that we allow for them to be sold, we aren't doing anything then as a community to address the cancer problem that we have in our state, in our city, and that's a huge concern for me.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
No,
7A, consideration of resolution number 2026-36, a resolution setting the time and place for a public hearing on the proposed budget amendment for fiscal year 25-26 for the city of Windsor Heights.
move to approve.
Second.
AJ or Rochelle?
This is going to be a budget amendment hearing on the, not the 18th of May. And included in your packet is a report about what the specifics are for the budget amendment. And if you go through that, and we could do it at the public hearing, maybe it's a better place to do that. All of these have, they're either grants and then the expenditures of the grants, or revenues that were already obtained, and then the expenses are on this, but within this budget amount. So I'll go through it more at the public hearing, since this is just setting the public hearing.
Also, just note where we sit year to date on the budget. We're about 84% of the way through the year. We've expended about 74% of the budget to date. We've been working with our new financial software provider, Banyan. I've gotten most of the way on putting this report together, but we have essentially taken each of the departments, added in the employee expenses, including the employee benefit expenses, and included that, looking at page 853 here, for each of these department area budgets. And then the second column there, you see the actual expenditures amounts, the next column, month to date, and the balance remaining, and then the percentage of the budget expended. So we plan to provide this to council on a quarterly basis going forward, just so you can track where we sit year to date on expenditures relative to the budget.
Further discussion?
Roll call. Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
7B, discuss employee health benefit contribution rates and consider FY 27 employee health benefit contribution rates.
Move for discussion, open for discussion.
Second?
No, we don't
You don't need that?
No,
Okay.
you're good.
This is a continuation of our previous discussion on healthcare benefits for fiscal year 27. I have attached the memo that was put together by staff at the last council meeting. Hoping tonight we can make a decision on the fiscal year 27 piece of that, and then we continue to move forward towards a policy that we can establish via resolution for a percentage going forward that we can work towards as a goal in the future. So do have also attached in here some additional information staff was asked to put together. That would be kind of a consolidated table of metro area, single family and employee percentage shares across the metro, categorized as either a POS, a PPO, or a high deductible plan. Any city contribution to an HSA, which are typically in those high deductible plans, the deductibles and the max out of pockets. And then just also note in the bottom of that, the average cost of a single plan across 14 respondents of Iowa cities and counties was $842. And the average cost of a family plan across the same group was just over $2,000. The Windsor Heights premiums currently are $408 and $1,003. And then below that, some information Rochelle had put together on fiscal year 26 contribution rates, and then what it would look like across changing those percentages of employment contributions up to 25%. Is that where we wound up? 25%. And then there is some cost information at the bottom of those tabs, as well as what that impact would be for some different staff members, depending on their per hourly rates. That's the information the staff has put together. Anything to add to that, Rochelle?
So I appreciate you putting this together, and we had a conversation. I don't think it's there's any question about, I think where I am. I think our biggest concern and issue, and I guess maybe I'll propose tonight that we just do for FY 27 tonight, and then I've requested that we have a work session on all benefits, all staff benefits on the 18th, and then, or I think we're probably going to need a couple of meetings is my guess. I know that that's something that I've been asking for here in this last spring, is to be able to look at all of those benefits. And then because we have to understand what the impact of those collectively are, not just on an individual basis. And that's essentially how they've been presented to us and how we have selected them. So after research and crunching numbers and all of those things, Windsor Heights is in the top 90th percentile for benefits in the state of Iowa for public sector employees. So I know back when Mr. Burgess was also at this dais and before, that the city council made a decision to have richer benefits in lieu of potentially, or in lieu of lower salary. So that was a conscious decision that we made at one point in time. Through different administrators and different folks around this dais over the course of the last 11 years, we've made changes to that, significant changes to that to increase salaries. But while we were increasing salaries, we weren't making changes to the benefits package. So we have an incredibly, incredibly rich, even better than the state benefits, rich benefits plan for our staff. Do I think that they are probably worth every dollar? The answer is yes. What the unfortunate part is that we are facing budget challenges, and those are very real for us. And at 6 and 7 o'clock last night, the legislature was passing a property tax reform legislation, and that's going to make it very difficult for us to continue to do our job without specifically looking at these items. And so I think we have to continue to balance and move forward with more of a scalpel. And in doing that, understand that we have to have more balance in these items, as much as I would like to be able to continue to provide, gold star benefits at an incredible value for our staff. We're in a position where our resources are limited, and then we're going to have to make really hard choices. And those can be a variety of things over the years, whether we don't upkeep with the things that our residents have asked us, including, I probably shouldn't use roads because a lot of that's a different funding source, but or upgrades to our facilities, have the same number of staff that we have, make sure everybody can have benefits. Those are the types of things, when we look at our different budget item lines, we will have to consider. So in light of that, I think that we are going to have to figure out what that is. I don't think we should necessarily do it all at once, but I think that we have to have a very strategic approach to having a cost share that is not only affordable, but that's, a little bit more consistent, and I think maybe fair to our residents. I think if folks knew and understand what the numbers tell us at this very moment in time, most people would probably fall off their chair. So I'll stop there.
I agree with Teresa. I think if we can get this fiscal year situated, that's pretty much there is the time constraint there that we need to work with. But I also don't want to be rushed into making decisions. I don't think that ever turns out well for anyone. And I definitely don't want to have like 48 hours at the State House, have that here with our benefit package, because I don't think that would do any good for anybody. But I do think that we have to be reasonable and understand that we're going to be looking at some tough decisions. And I hate to have employee healthcare costs increase, but I also remember being on the dais being told, well, we need to have better benefits because we aren't up there so far in salary. So I think now that we've kind of brought us closer to salary, then maybe we can kind of come up with a better way to look at our benefits and the employee contributions.
So I think that for FY27, what the staff has proposed makes sense to me, particularly because we're 2 months away from the new fiscal year starting. So the last thing I would want our staff to have to do is to think about large increases coming really quickly. I know that we need to do a comprehensive review of all this, and I know we've all talked about that, and getting everything on one page so we know when certain benefits starts and who's eligible and all of those types of things, and thinking about it holistically. And I agree with you, Teresa, it's going to take several meetings to do that. My tweak to your suggestion would be that I think we need to have either an ad hoc or a smaller committee start that conversation prior to being a workshop, just because I'm afraid that if all of us are sitting at the dais and we're going through all the things, it might not be as productive as at least getting everything on one page that we know is the same thing and going over the course of a couple months this summer to actually make sure that we are creating a plan that we can all agree with. And that way we can let the staff know, months out that starting next fiscal year, it's going to go up X% and you're going to lose this benefit or this benefit might be tweaked. So give them more runway to think about that. So I think that my suggestion is that we would pass what's here, but we create a bigger plan this summer and fall. But I think we need to, as we know, doing things in open session with all of us, sometimes it's difficult to actually work through the details. And I think if we can take small bites, then bring it all together and talk about it, it might be more productive for us. But that's just one man from Eastern Windsor Heights making a suggestion, my Southern University mindset.
The other south of University mindset.
So, what are you proposing for the smaller group? Are you asking for, are you suggesting like volunteers? Are you suggesting, what does that look like?
Well, it's a
Paint me a picture.
it's a starting point, right? So whether that's just a couple council members and a couple staff members, and we make sure we're charting out the entirety of things that we see as benefits, and that being anything that's in addition to salary and when those things kick in. And we chart that, we bring it back, say, does this cover everything that you've heard of or thought of? And then we start to think about how we might have smaller. I think we can do this in a very methodical way, but I definitely think that it needs to be kind of a more direct and active approach with smaller groups. And it could be combinations of smaller groups. It could be Fletcher and I at some point, it could be Teresa and me, and then Susan and Lauren, and then.
Actually, I would recommend if it's a group, that it's one group, so we don't have people talking back and forth outside of.
Well, but what if it were like different parts? Like you take these three things now and
But if the goal is to come to consensus on everything, it's probably better just to have it all same
the same
flavors at the table.
Yeah, but a combination of staff and electeds.
So Joseph, just thinking about what you just said, I'm wondering if we could one way to facilitate that would be maybe have a presentation on all of the benefits to us.
Mhm.
And then from there, get feedback in the discussion, then potentially taking a team to go work on and workshop it, right? Like more intimate detail based on what we heard from, and then bring it back to the whole thing, to the whole group with recommend. That might be a way to, I don't know, does something like that work, Aaron?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that way you could take suggestions ahead of time to at least have things through
and we can have an understand where people are
the
and
conversation. Yep,
AJ, is that helpful?
that sounds
Is
great.
that, okay.
How's that feel, Susan Spears?
I was kind of hoping to get some of the benefits, looking at things, because it has been a little bit that I know I voiced my concerns on a few things. I was hoping to at least have it done by July so that we don't wait another fiscal year, but doing it that way isn't, and not to say that your way isn't the right way. I'm just saying like that brings another fiscal year of having to do having the same benefits that, maybe, I don't know.
Well, but I think we can implement them at any time, right? We don't have to implement. Please do tell me if I'm wrong. I know your goal is July 1.
I think when we last discussed benefits, deferred compensation requiring a match seemed to be a consensus at everybody at the dais. It's also now in the union agreements that start July 1st. There are pieces that we may all already have in mind and agreed to and discussed, that those can just simply move forward as a handbook update at any time, in my opinion. And that one, for example, implementing July 1st, having everybody on the same page would make sense to me. There may be others out there as well.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's what the point I think I'm trying to make with this is I don't want to be making these these decisions independently, because then we forget about them. They don't get brought up into the conversation. Nobody knows what, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I think we need to be looking at it holistically and quit piecemealing this. And nobody understands, and people forgot, and nobody realized that, summer hours are all of May through all of September. I mean, stuff like that is when I thought it was Memorial to Labor Day. I mean, that's what I'm familiar with summer. I mean, clearly there's not a definition, but so it's these types of things that I think create, this isn't our full-time job. We rely on our staff to help guide us and provide the information, and then sometimes those are the things that fall through the cracks, and that's what I'm trying to avoid, that we can look at it holistically. So that's my concern.
Well, and I think we can have a holistic look at it, not before July 1, because that wouldn't be fair to us or the staff or even reasonable. But I think we can do it, say, before Fall Festival. And look to implement it for FY 28.
Oh, I want it done. I think we need to move quicker than that.
Do you think that we would so if we're gonna make a switch midstream in the middle of the fiscal year, would
Mhm.
that happen then January 1?
Well, then if
What
that
happened
means
if
we
we-
need to do it between the next 6 weeks, then we need to do it in the next 6 weeks. I'll roll up my sleeves. I mean, I think we have kicked this can down the road for far too long. I asked for this information earlier in the spring, and we still are without it.
You asked for what? earlier?
I asked for information on all of the benefits.
Was that not provided in a council packet? I thought that was provided.
There's a memo provided to all of city council that looks at various parts of benefits. It does not list every single benefit that is in the handbook.
Thank you.
Okay,
And I did send an email with some of my benefit concerns. I would have to go back through and figure out what month that was, but
That is incorporated in that memo that was circulated with all of council.
okay. So we're here to discuss the contribution rates. Which I think this is the third meeting? Fourth meeting? Third meeting. I recognize we want to have a holistic conversation. And we will. That's going to be a very large conversation, and it's going to require a lot of our personal time to do it. Probably at a committee level to have smaller conversations, right?
We've been saying that. Yep.
Okay.
I think that's the same conversation we just had.
So I guess we better start meeting then.
Are we deciding between these two plans as the contribution rate? Or are we looking to have a conversation that's more holistic? Like, why did we get to these two contribution rates? Is that what?
We can certainly provide, so Lauren and I met with AJ and Rochelle. I don't even know.
Fridays ago.
Is that what it was? Yeah, a couple Fridays ago. So we had conversation about and charted out these numbers and that sort of thing. And so staff recommendation that was not from that meeting for awareness. Lauren came with kind of her chart and recommendations. I can let her speak to hers. And then I came with a different set of recommendations. I guess I can't speak for Lauren, but so I was I think we need to look at 10% for staff. Because I was looking at it from the perspective of we need to do an increase and get closer to what is the average for the metro based on all of the things. And so based on that, we would be somewhere in the 15, it's around 15% for 12, I think to 15%, or no, 12 to 20% for employees. And then for individual, excuse me. And then for family, the average is 15 to 30. Okay. Right now on both of those, we are at or around, for the current fiscal year, FY 26, we're under 7% for, individuals, and we're at 7.2 or 7.02% for families. So we're significantly below, more than half, maybe in up to almost four times as much for a family plan, compared to the percentages for just health insurance. But then when you start looking at, and I know those were provided, we also do a buy down. And so that's a significant cost to our taxpayers as well, when you start looking at that. So we're paying an additional cost for the buy down, for these insurance plans. So that's another cost to us, that isn't realized, just a benefit to the employees. So I think, you guys hear me often say that as a business owner, I look at this a little bit differently, but I'm only also comparing, I only took public sector numbers, not private sector numbers, because those are far more than where we are. But if you can't really look at the plans that were provided in the package, because we're not comparing apples to apples still, right? And so when you start looking at the co-pays and those sorts of things, that are outlined, I got lots of charts,
Circle.
the one with the circles, that one has, this one here, you can see what our employee, so for currently right now, what we have for an employee plan, the deductible is $250 for a single plan and it's $500 for a family plan. For out-of-pocket maximum for an individual single plan, it's $1,750 and it's $3,500 for a family. There's a co-insurance at 20 and 30%. Emergency room is at $150 maximum. For doctor office pay, co-pays, it's $15. And then prescriptions range from $10 for tier 1, which I'm assuming your generic level, to specialty at $85.
Can I ask a question, Rochelle, real quick
Yeah,
on this?
sure.
Rochelle, the 408, the current cost for single, does that include the, what's it called, the buy down? From that? That does include the buy down. So we're not paying in addition to that for the deductible.
It includes everything.
Okay,
Includes the buy down.
okay, thank you. Sorry, I just want to make sure I had that clear.
I think that provides more context where your plan comes from, your numbers. Then there's the staff, and then there's Lauren's. Where's your context? Is it trying to find the middle ground between the two?
Well, your friendly neighborhood nerd made a couple graphs. If, Adam, if you wouldn't mind pulling up my deck and going to slide 5, actually slide 4.
You sent me a PowerPoint?
Oh, did you send it? Just kidding, I'll send it. Share. An email. So I took the numbers that Adam is able to get from across the metro and the state, and I narrowed it down to plans that were similar in concept. So the PPO plans and POS plans. POS plans functions very similar to PPO plans. And so the chart on page 4 or slide 4, did you get it yet? Sorry.
Okay.
Looking at the table was kind of confusing for me, so I put it in a chart so that I could better get a picture of where we're at.
So while you're doing that, if you don't mind, I just wanted to bring clarity back to the buy down. So what we do is we buy down so that the premium is lower. And so to give perspective, so if you look at our current monthly, because I think people just hear, they hear that, but they don't really know what it means. So when you hear that it's included, well, yes, it's included. That makes sense. So this 408, if we didn't have that buy down, would probably be closer to over $600. Okay? That's what it would be if we weren't doing buy down. I think when we talked, you said the buy.
We'd pay less each month, wouldn't we? Because we pay
No, you'd
extra for
pay-
buy down.
Your premium would be lower because you wouldn't have the buy down. Because you're.
No, because we
paying-
are, right. No. But because you are, we are doing the buy down, right? So if we weren't doing the buy down, it would be more.
The premium would be more.
Yes.
The buy down is included in the premium, so it would actually be less if we weren't doing the buy down. The premium would be less.
A little different way of looking at this is our plan is actually a high deductible plan. But we have essentially turned it into more POS plan so that it's more comparable to the Waukees is more rich, but Grimes, Polk County, Bondurant. So the buy down is a way to lower that max out of pocket, out of that high deductible range into a more traditional plan.
So how does that work? How do we pay for that then? Because you said that we buy into this to make the deductible lower or max out of pocket, whichever one you just said. So how much? So let's go to this sheet of paper here. So the buy down or for the city benefits, fiscal year 26 cost is $408. So we have $408. And if we go over here, our deductible, is that what you said we buy down? Or do we
We
buy
buy
down?
down both the deductible and the max out of pocket.
Okay, so if we didn't buy down, it would be like a deductible of $1,000 to $1,500, but instead it's $250 to $500. So how much does that cost us to buy down that deductible and max out of pocket? And does that play into this $408?
Yes, so that's $62.51. If you look at the single rate, the actual partial self-funding is $62.51. That's the piece of the premium that goes towards the self-funding.
I must not have that same chart. 'cause I
This
don't
is
see
part of our
62.
renewal that it's just part of our renewal.
Okay, because
So if we didn't
don't-
do that buy down, it would lower the monthly premium by $62.51.
Yes, and then those deductibles would pop up on the employee side.
so if we didn't do the buy down, it would be 408 minus $62. Please don't make me do math. Like 350-ish, 340-ish
per month.
per month.
62.51 per month.
And that's to get us to the $250 to $500 deductible. And if we had the 408. Yes, so it would be the 408 instead of the 340. If we did the 340, then that would jump up to like deductible of 500 or 1,500 to whatever.
Yes.
So because we do the 408, then our deductible is 250 to 500.
345 is what it would be without it.
Close enough.
So on the chart here, this is looking at the Iowa Government Healthcare Plan group comparisons, which, as Teresa said, is difficult because there's not a lot of similar sized apples or oranges in that group. But it shows how many charge fewer or charge less per month than the city does, and how many charge more than the city does. For the employee only is on the left and the family coverage is on the right. There are 22 22 groups, which, as we know, groups could be a county, they could be other things than just a city. 22 that don't charge at all for employee only coverage. And there's 7 that don't charge at all for family coverage, which was really surprising to me to learn. But compared to looking at this just on a spreadsheet table, this shows kind of where we are on the group that we're in. On the next slide,
Can you, just real quick so I can comment on this? So I think it's this, I don't think is an an appropriate way to look at this because all you're determining is whether or not they make a contribution to their premium, right? Do they pay more or less than our staff? But you can't, it's not a fair way to look at it and I think inappropriate because you have various different types of plans, right? So there's a whole host of different, whether it's an HSA or a PPO.
Yes, agreed. These are only the PPO and POS plans that are comparable, so not the high deductible health plans, because a lot of employers are going to like not charging at all for high deductible health plans because they're so much cheaper.
Right.
Agreed.
So then all of these are in the same range then, deductible, co-pays, out of pocket, all of those things? They compare then?
They're all from the PPO plan. I don't know if Rochelle has the details on the
Again,
deductible copay.
you are comparing, even if they're PPO, when you've got an out-of-pocket plan, and I know I have so many pieces of paper, that a staff that or a city that has a, let's see here, employer contribution, where's the employee contribution? So for example, one has $170, one has a 191, one has a 219, just to kind of one has a 245, right? So those are on the high end, but this is my point is then I don't have anything other than what their deductibles are here. And we don't know what their
Deductibles on it?
but Lauren, you don't know what their co-insurance, you don't know what their doctor office visits are, we don't know any of those things.
You're right. So I've
So
got
you
I've got
can't
several
compare.
parts because we've got just like these little data points, right? And to figure out, because you're right, there's not an easy way to go line by line and look at exactly comparing each of them. So this is just the ones that are in the same pool that we're in. If we go to the next slide, this I took, would you mind holding up the one that you just had? Sorry, the one that has the fold in it. This was making me go cross-eyed looking at the comparison of all of them. And there's also quite a few high deductible health plans listed in there too, which I feel like muddies the water because that's a different, anyway. So this shows just looking at so again, employee only is on the left, family coverage on the right. And then within that chart on the left shows within the metro. And then on the right in there, the blue dots show within the state of Iowa. So comparing other cities in the state of Iowa, like, are we competing with Cedar Rapids for employees? Probably not, but just showing, kind of painting a picture. So that teal line is where we are in the employee only on the left, and then on the right where we are in the family coverage. And just as Teresa said, we are, top 90 percentile for where we are as far as it being an employee benefit. But if you go to the next slide, I took the two numbers that Teresa and I were working with and plotted out over a span of time where that would move us to. So I think it's now the green option. I've got, turns out your girl did break a couple formulas in Excel, so I got these reprinted. But what I was proposing was 15%, stair step up to 15% at employee only, which matched what Teresa said. I said in FY31, her proposal was FY29. So it's the same target, just a little bit different timeline, different number of steps. And then the family coverage, I've got, again, FY31, option A, FY30 with option B. That shows, and again, that's just the ones that are in the metro and in the state. So it does put us towards the higher end from the data that we have access to for in the metro and in the state. And I know that you've referenced some other data or some other percentage points of where we are, but this is just based off of the data that I've got access to. So if there's more data points that we should add in here, happy to. And then the last slide just shows two bar graphs that show it changing over time so that we're not having a large jump, impacting employees. You see on the right-hand side is the option B, and the last two lines are the same because that brings it to the plan quicker or the goal quicker. So short answer, long answer to your short question, that's where I got the numbers from.
Okay.
And do we know what other cities are doing? Because I'm going to think that we're not the only city that is sitting here looking at how we have to adjust our budget. So do we know what other cities are looking at as far as, because right now we're going with the information that we're provided, but that could change here this next fiscal year maybe, or do we have any knowledge of what, because I don't want to try to figure out where that piece of paper is, but somehow there's something with like Waukee and all of that, wherever that is. Do we know like what they're looking at doing for the next fiscal years as we're trying to compare apples? Oh, there we go.
I don't have any future. I mean, that's probably more of a question for Adam. I don't have any future, but if you go back to number 6 again, or number 5, if you hover over the dots in Canva presentations, it tells you what the data point is. I know you guys are very excited as well, but it'll show you which cities it's aligning to. So like on the top right, Jackson County, yep. And then if you go to the top 15% over on the metro side, it should, if you hover, it should tell you which cities. Waukee is up there at 15% at the top currently from this chart. But again, I don't know what they're talking about for future state.
Just in casual conversation, I won't name names of specific cities, but over the last few years, there's been an increase in the number of cities that have offered high deductible plans. And encouraged employees to be on those plans. Those are the ones with the HSA contributions. It's essentially just another way to buy down that max out of pocket. There's at least one other city in the metro now that's currently at 8%, and I believe working their way towards 10%. But I haven't heard much conversation beyond that.
So, I mean, so ultimately, we're looking to make sure that our staff still has the benefits that they need, but then find ways to save for the city. The email that Adam had provided me today, and I don't know if you've shared that with everyone, that has the difference between now and then as it tiers out, the difference between the savings, I guess. So for Lauren's plan, FY27 is 33,800 different than
I know.
FY26.
So this is a little different than what was in the packet, because it does include the data that you were asking for, where it shows the total budget expense for benefits, what the out-of-pocket cost increases for employee-only plan, for the family plan. And then there's also a line for the difference between the current fiscal year of FY26. So, and these are labeled with Plan A, Plan B.
Just a different way to look at it from the perspective of how much are you going to save? Like what's going to save our budget? Again, knowing that the legislature, what they just passed, a 2% cap, and that we are going to have to start thinking differently about how to do this, because we don't have the luxury of new builds. We don't have the luxury of new add-on, extensive add-ons to homes that would otherwise give us a different or an expanded beyond 2% revenue to be able to draw in. Plus you have a cap on homeowners who are of a certain age or a certain veteran status or disability status. So I'm very anxious to see the numbers on what that means for us when we start, when I'm sure AJ is going to have lots of fun figuring, doing all of those things. I don't think we should look at it I appreciate the number that it's what the savings is, but I think we're going to have to just be more conservative. I don't want to say look at the, rip the Band-Aid off, but in the same token, if we don't get serious about it quickly, then we're going to be upside down and be in a difficult position. I also, from the city's cost perspective, so anyways, I think 10 and 12%, or if you want to do 10 across the board, those are things that I think are a fair approach. It's consistent with what others are paying in other communities. In addition, you're just comparing what a cost share perspective is, or what the employees percentages, but when you're talking, a percentage of 10% of $400 or 10% of $1,000, those are two different things. And that's why it's really difficult to do comparisons between the areas.
With this chart, these charts, it's clear which of the two has the more savings. I just want to make sure that we are also prioritizing the people behind the budget as well, those that are, doing the services. And not just the budget itself, but we might determine after we do a little deeper dive that, the more savings also allows for the benefits that our staff needs as well. So I just want to make sure that we're prioritizing, again, the people behind the budget too.
So what staff proposed was 7.5% increase in health for fiscal year 27, correct? Is that the staff proposal
The proposal that
for
was
the employee share?
7.5% for fiscal year 27 for single, 7.9% for family. And then it creates the employee match requirement for the dental and vision, and then splits short-term disability 50-50. The fiscal year 27 changes are more focused on establishing employee cost shares for dental, vision, and short-term disability than increasing significantly the health share percent, the healthcare percentage.
And the,
But it's not an increase of 7.5. It's 7.5 is the percentage.
7% to 7.5% and to 7.9%. Thank you.
It's like $3 difference.
Right. So when you
Between
start,
single and then $10 difference with family a month, correct?
Yes.
On this, okay.
and the staff the recommendation in here, that will meet the need of the budget gap that was identified.
Yeah, we had a $37,000 budget gap, and that's where this is all starting from. We knew we had a gap, and how are we going to fund the gap? Well, there's already $17,000 of that is already met. We found that already. So I'm looking for $20,000 is what I need in order to meet our budget gap. And so even the FY 27 Plan A, that one meets the gap by $33,816. That number is there. It says difference from FY 26. Under FY 27 monthly contributions, it's at the very bottom of that table. That's the amount that we'll save by the FY 27 Plan A. Also on Plan B, then, in the same regard, the difference there that we would save is $46,328. I also put on this chart, this wasn't Lauren's, I added this, asked her to add this, is what this is going to do to your employee. So for Plan A, employee only increase is $99 a year on Plan A for FY 27. And then a family increase per year would be $420.72. For Plan B, the increase for the employee would be $99. Oh, that's not right.
this is not, I was going to say, you can't have the same numbers. It's wrong. Your numbers are wrong.
Where's my number wrong?
You can't have the same.
Did I copy paste it wrong? Listen, I said I would make charts. I did not say I was good at quality control. Sorry.
Well, but isn't that the priority of charts, sweetheart?
I did my best. I wish I could do your best.
Numbers, but they're not in the chart.
I
So
can't
for
do
those-
this. I don't even try.
But
I don't even try.
But the Plan B numbers for FY 27, the employee increase would be $366.48. And for family, it would be $1,010.76. So that's the Plan B employee family differences.
Rochelle, what did you just, I'm sorry, say that again, because that wasn't the numbers that I had from the last time.
This is the actual increase in Plan B, FY 27. Employee, $366.48. This would be if you increased health, dental, and vision at the percentages that are in there.
Okay.
And then for family, it's $1,010.76.
Okay, because the last time we looked at that, I guess it was just health insurance, so it would have
Right.
been
Yeah.
$99 or $100 for health, or yes, at the 10%. And at the 12% for the family, the max it would have been under $630 annually. So like
Yes.
less than $10 a month and less than $50 a month.
For health insurance, yes.
But if somebody's making 25 an hour and they got the 2.7 increase, that's gonna gobble up all but $300 of their raise for the year.
But you can't look at it from the perspective of somebody's raise, because what if you don't get a raise?
Yeah, then they're gonna be taking home less money.
I understand that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. But we may be in a situation where you aren't gonna have a raise because you don't have a budget to do that. And you still gotta have a health. And so then how do you can't.
I'm just
use
trying
it.
to,
I'm
I'm
just
just
saying
trying to
I
have
don't
the
think that's-
holistic view of the paycheck that they're taking home, that the two reasons why I go to work every day are for my paycheck and my benefits. And so I'm making sure that we're looking at this in its entirety, just like looking at all the benefits, holistically.
Rochelle, can you remind me, does this come pre-tax or post-tax? Does the insurance?
The insurance comes pre-tax.
Okay.
Next is section 125 Internal Revenue Code.
So the 10 and 12% would be $31 a month for all, I'm assuming based on the numbers that Rochelle gave and basing that those are correct. That would be a $31 a month for an individual, and for a family, it would be $84 a month.
Just for health insurance, is that what was?
No, you said for all of the numbers, right? You said that the entire insurance package would be $633. For dental, vision. You just said that.
Plan B.
Yes.
For Plan B, the total, you mean the total for all of them combined?
Yeah, like Lauren's is correct.
Yes. So for Plan B, FY 27, employee total, 366.48.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's the increase.
That's the increase. That's a total increase for the annually. Yes. So
Employee.
that's exactly what I said. So monthly, so you divide 366, whatever, 70, whatever, divided by 12.
The monthly rates on here are right. It's just that variable bottom line that is incorrect. So, and.
Are you meaning the increase? that
I'm
they're
looking at
paying
the
every month?
total monthly increase per employee based on the numbers you just said would be $31 a month for an individual and $84 a month for a family.
I don't know where you're getting those numbers.
I literally divided the numbers that you just gave me, this 366 and the 1076, the 1076, I divided by them by 12.
Okay. It's just my numbers don't look like that, so I'm trying to understand where yours are coming.
She's.
I just told
she's
you.
saying- She's saying the annual increase that you're giving, right? She's just dividing it by 12 and saying that this will be the monthly increase.
So
Right.
yes, I just hadn't added them all together. Excuse me, hadn't added them from the health, dental and vision all combined.
So it's a $30.54 increase per month at the 12 for the 366.48. So on the employee. I didn't do the math on the.
It's like $84 a month. To move us along, I'm gonna make a motion. We'll see what happens. Is in an effort to try to get something moving forward here, do a 10% across the board. So for individual and family, and move to increase the employee share to 10% for both of those for fiscal year 27.
And dental, vision, short-term disability.
Great question. So, the staff's recommendations for dental, vision, and short-term disability.
So what would those numbers look like?
Well, so if you look at the blue sheet, I think you'd see the 10%.
Percentages.
That would be correct there.
So take off 2% on all of that and then add in dental and vision.
And I think that dental and vision is already added into that number, so it should reduce that number for the family. You got your fancy spreadsheet, you can plug that, you can change that number.
I think I had to break the formulas to do it. Hang on, look. No, I just manually typed it in. Do you have this chart?
Like.
Question, what the employee contribution would be on a monthly basis?
Oh, yeah, so here it is.
It
So
would be about $20 less a month. Susan,
Pardon me?
10% would be about $20 less a month than the 12%. So instead of 122, it'd be 102.
But does that include the dental and vision?
the rest of that does. So for what, I think if you build it out on this sheet, the blue, purple sheet, whatever, blue, if you look out, the rest of that's in there. The percent of the dental, the percent of the vision, and the percent of the short-term disability are all otherwise included in that chart, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
that is the total amount. Like, we aren't adding in dental or vision, or I mean, we don't have to add in. So I'm, just so I completely understand. So employee non-union, 4166 at 10%. Family will minus $20, which would be 120.89. And that is exactly what they will be paying. They won't pay the 533 or 2280 for dental, and they won't pay the 276 and 896 for vision.
I understand the proposal to be if you look at the staff report, the staff recommendation from the last meeting, so that would be page 857 on the bottom right of the page there. And you look at the cost, fiscal year 27 of a single plan is $416. So 10% of that is going to be about $41. 10% of the family plan cost is $1,024. So $102. And then you've got the same as the recommendation that's in this report for employee dental and family. So we can add those $34 on the employee side, $7.87 on the employee side for the vision. And then you've got approximately $17.13 for short-term disability. So it would be
So it's not all included.
no, I think it is. So if you, I mean, I guess the question is what do you mean by, is it all included? Are you talking about the number, the total cost increase for the employee?
So if I was an employee, what is going to come out of my paycheck for the health insurance, for the dental insurance, for the vision insurance? I don't really care about short-term disability because I think that's a different.
Okay, so again, I don't know if Rochelle can do this, but if you look at, so if we look at the purple sheet again, right? I don't know, again, I'm not a mather, but if you have, we said that the total employee cost would be $1,010.76, right? So if we reduce that by, the only reduction you're gonna have is about $20 a month. So you reduce that by, is that 20 times, is that 240?
Yes.
So reduce that by 240.
Kind of a chart, and this might help just a tiny bit. What I'm looking at is this one right here, which says health insurance contributions, and it's like a pamphlet.
So this would move, if I just am rough shotting some numbers, it'd be 770.76 would be your family increase annually. Divide that by 12, that'd be 64, an increase of $64 a month. So
I think if I like our conversation about looking at everything holistically, looking at all the benefits, I think if I think that we should either follow the staff recommendation for FY 27, and then we can look at all of the benefits together as described earlier. Otherwise, I think we're getting into the onesie twosies that we're trying to avoid of looking at everything one off.
Just looking at the employee only, we went from 99.96 and then up to 366.48. And then we did a whole bunch of other math, and I'm not sure where that number is at net now. Cause that's what had a motion to vote on, right? Is what that number is gonna
That's
be.
right. It's moved, I'm sorry.
7.5%, right?
I made the motion for 10.
Yes.
I don't show that that was seconded.
It wasn't. We're still in discussion.
So where's the 366? Is it still there?
The 366, so if you look at this sheet, that would be that where it says employee only annual increase where it says 99.
Yep.
That number's wrong. It should have said 366.
Yep.
Okay. And then the family annual, if you did the 12%, which is on there, would have been 10.76.
Mhm.
Okay. So my proposal, my motion was do 10 and 10, right? So 10 for both. And so the 366 would be the same,
Yeah.
right? Versus what the staff recommendation for rounding of all purpose and all intensive purposes, 100 versus 366, okay, for increases.
Mhm.
The family, because I'm saying 10, if we do 10%, from the numbers I just crunched quickly, because I couldn't get a number from anybody else, it looks like it's 770.76 would be the family increase for that, as opposed to the 420.
But what if we went up to like 8.5? And then we're kind of splitting the difference.
Well, why?
Why to which?
Why 8.5?
Because you're kind of splitting the difference.
I understand. I guess. Well, you know what? So the motion as it stands is 10% across the board with the employee recommendations for everything else. Is that correct?
That was my motion.
All right.
Yep.
Is there a second to that motion? There is no second. Discussion continues.
Motion to accept the staff recommendation, the 7.5, 7.9, including the dental, exactly as in the staff recommendations for now, and leading up to our conversation then where we can truly look at everything holistically.
Second that.
I think it's fiscally irresponsible. For our taxpayers.
So
All the vote.
the motion is just to accept the staff recommendation. Correct?
Yes, pretty charts and color coded typos aside.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Susan Skiris,
No.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry,
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
No.
Reports, Ms. Harms.
I am anxious to, find out from the staff when we will get a report or directives on how the impact of the property tax increases, or excuse me, the property tax legislation on our city budget moving forward. I think we need to be proactive and diligent. So that way we aren't having these conversations in this hour in the future. About how we're going to make up $37,000 or $40,000 in needs to cut from our budget. And so I'm hopeful and optimistic that we can do that before January of next year. Thank you.
Campbell.
I attended a brief DART meeting last Friday for Joseph as our alternate and got to vote. I think that might be it.
Barry.
Completed the League of Cities MLA program. Had a good time volunteering. Thank you. Had a good time volunteering for Earth Day, participated in the stream cleanup, and I want to give a shout out to Public Works, as I thought at least the area that I was picking up trash in was pretty well clean. Obviously, there's a lot to be picked up, but less than I had imagined. And then met with the Windsor Heights Chamber Committee. Their spotlight or business spotlight is going well, where they're highlighting all the local businesses for their support in the community and the chamber.
Jones.
Tomorrow we have DART. You saw that we selected a new CEO, Aaron Hockman, who's been with DART a lot over the years and has seen increased leadership and responsibility. So we're pretty happy about that decision. With her starting tomorrow is Amanda's last meeting. And so we'll talk about what that transition looks like. Also, we'll talk about the implementation of Reimagine. I think you should have all gotten a invitation to the Route 4 right around that's happening at the end of the month to see what that looks like and be a part of that. And that's it.
Darius.
Let's see. I attended the Chamber's Women's Empowerment Breakfast. It was great to see so many of our own Windsor Heights business owners and chamber members represented there. Last Tuesday, I attended the AM Exchange and joined Teresa at the Sip, Savor, and Support event that was put on by the Building Lives through reading at the Community Event Center. They did a presentation that highlighted why their work is so vital, and it was pretty impactful. Teresa and I both supported their silent auction. Teresa by donating an event and me bidding on an event that no one else wanted to start the bidding on. I'm relieved to report I was not the high bidder on the airplane ride because I don't like to fly, but nobody was bidding on it. So I started it. Did have a chance to discuss with them about joining a future city event to promote their mission. Then this past Friday, I joined Linda Westergaard and probably about 100 other influential women at the Food Bank of Iowa's Women Fighting Hunger Breakfast to support their ongoing efforts in our region. Earth Day was a success. It was kind of hard to get a perfect count with the constant flow of people, but I estimated over 500 attendees. The SOAR Raptors and the 3D printer were definitely the stars of the show. So thank you for Lauren for doing the 3D printing and then doing the real, I don't know the time lapse for the 3D printing as well. So a big thank you to all the volunteers who helped us manage the logistics. Kicked off the 2026 movie series Friday night with the Princess Diaries. It was a mite bit cool, a little brisk, but Hope Foundation saved the day with some hot chocolate and coffee that they were serving. I was impressed that the crowd stayed until the very end, and I have to say this was one of the most polite and appreciative groups we've hosted so far. Special thanks to Steam Stars and Des Moines Public Library for being part of the kickoff. Touch a Truck, we held our logistics walkthrough today to ensure everything is ready for the event on the 22nd. And today, the Des Moines Partnership published an article that I wrote about volunteering and the importance of volunteering in the community. I'm sure my English teacher in high school, who called me Karen Strange, would be very proud, even if my English teacher mom had to review my errors on the article. I have a Metro Waste Executive Board meeting on Wednesday. On Friday, I'll be attending the Girl Scouts Inspiring Women of Iowa event where Leslie Earlbeck from Metro Waste Authority and Grimes City Council is being honored. And then reminder that Wake Up Windsor Heights is Thursday, maybe I have the date wrong, Thursday, May 14th at 7:30 a.m. at the Public Works Garage. So RSVP if you haven't already. That's it.
AJ? 74th Street reconstruction will get underway Monday.
And there is the one we to private utility conference today, so.
When did you say it would start?
Tomorrow then?
Monday, a
Excellent.
week from today.
Okay.
You're gone.
Heather? Yeah, adjournment,
Move to adjourn.
Second.
roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
Adam, let me know when you're ready.
Autograph? What are you here
Didn't
for?
ask me.
Hours.
Like.
I would love to.
Hey, it's better than not doing them at all.
Just in case they need a verify,
There's,
you know.
there are probably 36 public meetings that you could go to between now and Friday. Can I send it to these?
Tell me some more.
She
You
wants
need to go more? Do you need to go to more?
I.
Susan, what meetings do you have this week?
Use your pen,
What are you doing tomorrow at lunchtime? What are you doing tomorrow at lunchtime?
Eating lunch.
Metro Waves, you want to go to DART?
Good
Do you want
idea.
to go to DART? Oh, AP test, what's that gonna get you?
Here.
Wednesday, I have a
Wednesday.
Metro Waste meeting.
What's that?
Noon.
She's busy.
No, you could do it. Do you want me to send you the info?
How many
Thank
meetings
you,
do you need to
guys.
go to, babes?
I mean, you can just come hang out with me anytime.
Be ready, whenever you guys are.
All right. Work session, Windsor Heights City Council, Monday, May 4th,
So everybody left.
7:47. Roll call.
Presentation from the Susan Skiris.
Yeah, Peter.
Oh, jeez, that was aggressive. You could take the girl out of Buffalo, but take the Buffalo.
Like.
Here.
Each thing's
Fletcher
in.
Berry here. Lauren Campbell.
Here.
Teresa Harms.
Here.
AJ or whoever.
Before I hand it off to Chief, just want to thank him for his work on this. Asked everybody to come up with some creative ideas to continue to provide good service, but look at ways to cut costs. Even if we don't move forward with this 28E, I think it's been generative of some good ideas and some good conversations. Also want to note appreciation to the union for them engaging in the dialogue, providing the letter here tonight. There's a little bit of daylight between, I think, their position and the staff recommendation, but not a lot, frankly. So I really appreciate them coming to the table with the willingness to, at least on the current basis, to operate with potentially 12 officers and more limited overtime as well. So Chief, turn it over to you to walk through the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I want to say like last year, we were approached to come up with some ideas for the Public Safety Committee on trying to trim our budget or come up with some cost saving ideas under our budget. And one of those areas was when we talk about big costs for us, since we are 100% generally funded, that is basically personnel. 80 to 85% of our budget is personnel related, and the other stuff comes out of different budget lines like lost or the levy for the benefits. So One of those areas that we looked at was trying to look at a partnership, a supplemental partnership with an external agency to help us cover shortages of shifts. And that was actually when we actually had 13 officers back then, and now we're down to 12 with one open vacancy. Not only would this proposal save the city some money, it also would improve the backup coverage for our officers, response time for continuity. And it still would, I still think we would actually maintain handling more than 90% of our calls, but that's just a rough estimate that this would still allow a Windsor Heights officer to have ownership in most of our calls for service during the meaty times of the day. Turn the slide. Oh, yes. Well, of course, we're authorized for 13, and we still have one open vacancy. Since I've been here for 3 years, we've had some frequent staffing gaps in patrol and in detectives due to training, leave, separations, court, etc., where we try to cover that on a weekly basis. We do have a single officer that covers the shifts generally on the weekends for about 12 hours. There's just one officer on duty at that time, and that's a limited. That's at when we're down to 3 from Friday night into Saturday into Sunday. Those are the 2 days there. And then significant overtime is used to have a 3 officer minimum in patrol every day. And that is about 6 hours a day that we use overtime to maintain that minimum coverage in patrol. Yeah, good. The proposed supplemental 28E would add some structure to our schedule. It would have some consistent assistance from a partner agency, and it would be able to be used when we do not have an emergency situation going on, as opposed to a situation where a timely response would be needed. A motor vehicle crash in a parking lot where you have 2 parties hanging around waiting for an officer to show up. A dog bite, let's say that, the parties, that's kind of an uncomfortable situation. We would want to have a timely response to that type of thing. But those are not emergencies by our Westcom protocols that a outside agency would come over to take for us. So those are our examples. They would be the preferred secondary unit built into our CAD system, so they're not shopping around for the closest unit. They would automatically defer to that outside agency first, and if they're not available, then they would take it out to the wider Westcom agencies. This program would be evaluated for effectiveness and cost. We're only suggesting this be a year program with a 6-month review to see what really is going on. We have to drill down on the stats. One of the, I hate to say benefits, but one of the offshoots of this proposal is we have learned that we have kind of a statistical problem to figure out where our officers are going, depending on how you run reports in our CAD system. And just for an example, if I run a report for the day and I use Windsor Heights as the jurisdiction, I get every car that stops, an Urbandale, West Des Moines, Clive car that stops somebody in Windsor Heights city limits. I get those calls that come in. So I have to filter those out manually to figure out that Urbandale was at 70th and Wilshire on a traffic stop, and or we were on the other side of Hickman. So I got to go find that information for our units when they're on the other side of the street. So we've learned that I can run the report one way, get one number. I run the report the other way, I get a different number. And I've had AJ and Mike and Chad, and they're looking at it, even had Chief McCluskey breaking down some of our calls. And it's been a concern and an issue that we were going to try to work with Westcom on, but of course they are without a IT person at the moment. But I think we found a way to manually daily look at the calls and drill down on a daily level to find out how many calls that would be for someone coming into our city.
And if I could, just that isn't necessarily a new problem either. I think back in 2018, was it, Chief McCluskey looked at having CPSM or another agency come in, provide some expertise on trying to dig through the data, analyze the data, and make some staffing recommendations. And I think the cost of that, which also included a fire department study on that, was about 18,500. And so there is some workload to be done on that, but it'll be a bit of a slog.
Yeah, our goal is to have 2 officers working per shift, and even with 13, we would not be able to maintain that. I believe there was a study that he was referring to that the previous administration was gonna ask for 15 officers to staff all shifts long. And I think that's saved somewhere in one of the drives in our, like a 2018 staff study that was started to do that. So if they could not do it with 13 or 14, we can't certainly do it with 12. So this would be a happy medium to that, and also again save money. Our current patrol staffing model would remain the same, even with which is now still fully staffed at 8, and it would continue under the 2080. Next. We are just throwing numbers out here. The annual cost could be anywhere between the 43 to 65,000, depending on how many times we have this external agency come over and handle calls for us. We expect that this cost would come out of our overtime budget, which exists right now at $110,000 for next fiscal year, 27. So we would expect that we would see the $20,000 to $30,000 or even more, even with this fee, as a savings. And you see the historical numbers there of our overtime budget. The flat fee was discussed as beneficial, so we don't have to bill per call. Next, please.
So can I go back to that slide? So for our overtime in fiscal year 25, it was just $60,000.
Here, entire year.
Okay, all right. So that was fully staffed.
Yeah, and then so Kyle left in July of last year, right when the fiscal year started, like around right after the fiscal year started. So he was here the year before. Then Officer Bowers left in September, but his pay carried on. But we were fully staffed pretty much throughout that fiscal year, and that's how low that can be if all of us are here.
Okay, so then so I'm assuming in fiscal year 23 and 24, we were not fully staffed, and that's what created the.
Correct.
Okay.
And then we had one that was still in FTO, one that hadn't been to the academy yet, so they're still on the payroll at
Sure.
9.
So next question. So this 43 to 65 fixed fee for this 28E that currently costs us nothing for backup would be, so if we did this, we wouldn't do the 13th officer.
That is, I think maybe we can get through the presentation and then we'll start talking about that.
Okay.
But that is an option, is to stay at 12 and not hire the 13th back, and or reduce the overtime in addition to that.
So right now,
Okay, continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to get ahead. I just am trying to, I obviously have read, we've had these conversations. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
so again, you can see the expected benefits of that. Again, this started as a cost saving measure, but there's also other benefits that actually increase officer safety. Again, we have a consistent backup, consistent agency. Clive has been the only agency that has kind of expressed interest in helping us and wanting to do this. We partner with them on a lot of things, including special events, as well as we use their jail for our data master. And there's also some digital fingerprinting things coming down the road here in the next couple of years where we may have to get off the ink way and do it the digital way. And that would be a very big cost that we would need to share. We wouldn't be able to do it ourselves on that too, but that's how it works. Again, potential long-term staffing adjustments, could be in the 130,000 if we don't fill that open position. And then this is your.
Yes. So kind of the direction we're looking from council tonight is twofold. The first question is, once we've answered any questions you've got on the 2080, do you want to pursue that further? And presuming we would enter into a 2080 for the supplemental service, we would begin more closely tracking the call overlap and the officer saturation rate, the percentage of the time an officer spends on a call, and the amount of supplemental aid being used under a reduced staffing model to evaluate the program's effectiveness, essentially to determine how many times are we required to call on mutual aid because we have more instances of one officer working patrol than we currently do on average today when we pay for overtime and 12-hour mandates. The second would be more in line with what the union has proposed, which is at least temporarily stay at the 12 officer level today, do some limited overtime, track and unpack that call overlap, saturation, and mutual aid use. And then in 6 months, if we see an uptick in that mutual aid coming into Windsor Heights under that new model, then potentially pursue the 2080 to compensate for that. The third option is not continue to pursue the 2080. And then the second half of that, to Councilmember Harn's point, is the staffing model. Right now, we have 12 sworn officers. If we stay at that as opposed to what's budgeted, which is 13, that would be a savings of approximately $130,000 a year. As noted, you do currently have in the budget for fiscal year 27, the 13th position. So we can certainly go forward and try to fill that position currently. And then the other half of that question is overtime utilization. Again, when we are at less than 8 officers in the patrol rotation, the typical move is to move to 12-hour shifts from the 10-hour shifts. And with or without the 2080, we can reduce that by accepting that there'd be one Windsor Heights officer working, particularly during non-peak times, with or without the supplemental 28E agreement with Clive to provide that additional backup and or handle a secondary call that might come in that has a priority.
Thank you, Adam.
I know that a couple of council members have asked me about our mine position. We've fought that because we've had some issues with some vice and some narcotics issues in town, and we needed some supplemental support to address those concerns. We also still have a, drug and narcotics and vice issue in our city, and as well as a halo around our town. Detective Davidson has done several, somewhere in around 5 to 6 search warrants, again, in that halo area. They've also done a couple concerns in town. We do have a retail area where a lot of, hate to say buys happen, but buys do go down in some parking lots in our fair town that we also can levy some resources at. Bringing Mark back he would not be in patrol. It throws us out of whack. I have to have an even number because the way our patrol schedule lays out is half of them are on one side, half of them are on the other side. One half works weekends, one half's off weekends. That's the schedule that they have all wanted. And I've said, I indicated last council meeting, a lot of people have come here for this schedule, and we're asked about our schedule all the time to have other departments kind of mimic what we do. So that was kind of an untouchable. And again, as we talk about money, not only just the professional development that he's getting, the experience that he's pulling down. And we did just get a check for almost $9,200 for our participation in that, which is about 10% of his salary. So I would not be able to get that as him being here as a detective. So there is a $10,000-ish or $9,200 offset from his salary. We just got the check today, by the way. So anyway, and then there's also some overtime reimbursement on that. And I know there was when we signed when the council looked at the MOU last February, April-ish. There was a couple MOUs that were going around and we put the wrong one in there, and the one that is signed goes to 2028, but the one that the council approved goes to 2025. When we didn't even go full 6 months, so it'd be my recommendation that we continue that at least through 2028, see what happens. Mark is still available to come back and help us on cases. He is still our evidence technician. He comes and helps us with evidence and found property. And on major cases, he is called when needed. So he is still available to help us when we need that. And again, crime has kind of fluctuated with us. We have a lot of follow-ups that we do on misdemeanor cases right now, a couple meaty persons crimes that we're picking up with Cody or with Mike. So that's my mind spiel there. So anyway.
Can I ask a couple questions about
Yeah,
that?
sure.
So we're currently making, it's costing us how much out of our budget for the mine officer?
Just a salary.
So which is,
The top level, so 97 something.
okay. I'm assuming so we only pay salary, don't pay benefits or anything like that?
He's been since
About 130.
Whatever, 130.
130. Okay, so it's costing us 130, but this is on, but he doesn't work for us full time.
He works at the main office, but he does, we also refer cases. to
Right.
him.
So, and he is a Windsor Heights employee or he is a county employee?
He's a Windsor Heights officer that reports to the mine office and gets directed by the mine task force.
This blows my mind right now, because I don't understand why we would be paying for somebody else to, or for one of our staff to only be working for us part-time and we're paying 100% for their salary.
But they also bring in a whole lot of people when we.
I understand that, but I'm assuming that's through Polk County? Is that Polk County? Okay, so we also pay county taxes, right? Last time I checked on my property tax assessment, we pay county taxes. This sounds like double dipping to me. From my perspective, I don't like that. So, and I think that, so you're telling me we currently don't have a signed agreement, but we are currently paying for the current mine person, but we don't have a signed, a correct signed 28A agreement.
It was an MOU, wasn't it?
MOU, whatever. We don't have a current one.
We have one that just today was wrong.
But the council did not approve. The council approved, but the day was wrong. So we approved what we saw on the date. So we don't have a current contract signed.
I believe that.
Whatever was approved at the dais would be the correct date.
Okay, so we do not have a current mine contract. In the meantime, we're currently continuing to pay for that.
But we do have a signed one though, Pete signed, so.
But it's not
we do
approved
have-
by the council.
It hasn't been approved by the council, but there is like documentation on it.
Does stuff like that show up in our audit is my question? Would that be a question?
Not from. The auditor does look at things from the dais, but it's specific to like minutes, did it get published? Was a certain thing on the agenda, did it get motioned and seconded correctly, those types of things. That I'm aware of, that's the questions they ask me.
Okay, all right. I'm assuming this would be something that would be identified in our audit. Okay, thank you.
Did you want to check? Do that last slide. Mark?
I think he already went.
Yeah,
through this.
I talked through, I'm not sure if you pulled the slide up, I guess, I'm not sure if Officer Nissen, you're interested in providing any additional context on the union position on the matter?
Yeah.
That's all right with the council.
Yeah, I would please, and then also I would love, so certainly your guys' letter, but then secondarily, if there's just other thoughts in general, I would open the floor to you or any of your colleagues.
Okay, so I'm the union steward, one of two. Joe Rotman's the other. And we have some concerns with the 28 agreement. Speak briefly on it. So kind of at a 20,000 foot view, the proposed 28 agreement looks like a fix. It presents itself as a solution to coverage, efficiency, and regional operation or regional cooperation. On the surface, it checks the boxes and appears to move us forward in a cost savings to the city. However, When we move beyond the high level and examine how this would actually function in practice, a different picture would begin to emerge and several issues that we feel would concern the department. And I'll outline some of these. The union does appreciate the chief's work. I've seen him in here on weekends doing the 2080 agreement, and we were joking around about getting a higher raise, but no, he has spent a lot of time on the 2080 agreement. So as a core, the proposal does not represent an increase in capability. It represents a reallocation of resources, in our opinion. The reality is, and we kind of use 50,000 throughout here, and it's kind of a in-between number, maybe a little bit lower than the 43 to 65. But the reality is the same $50,000 already exists within our system in the form of overtime. Our officers are willing and able to work these hours right now. Choosing this agreement means we would be sending those dollars outside of our own department instead of reinvesting them into the people that already serve this community. As a total, Windsor Heights Police Department officers had 94 years of service committed to the Windsor Heights residents. This does not include prior years of experience with other police departments. 11 of your 13 officers at Windsor Heights have decades of experience with other agencies as well. So the union believes the decision carries consequences. First, a moral standpoint. This is significant. When officers see overtime opportunities reduced in favor of bringing in outside agencies, it sends a message, whether intended or not, that there will be replaced rather than supported over time. That impacts motivation, engagement, and ultimately retention within the department. In today's environment, where keeping good officers is critical, it's not a small consideration in the union's views. Second, we need to recognize that this agreement is largely redundant. We already operate under multiple 28E agreements with surrounding communities. We already provide and receive backup on a regular basis. On top of that, we have the strong working relationships within the agencies, such as the Iowa Department of Public Safety, the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigations, and numerous federal partners. Those partnerships have directly contributed to the successful prosecution in Windsor Heights cases on the federal level and state level and city level. So this question becomes, what new capability are we actually gaining here? Third, we would look at our local priorities. Windsor Heights has two major traffic corridors where we constantly see injury accidents and congestions throughout our shift, especially in the winter. Those areas are already supported in partnership with Iowa State Patrol. The challenge isn't the lack of partnership, it's how we choose to invest our resources to address those issues directly. And then fourthly, what isn't reflected in the proposals, the day-to-day patrol activities. The proposed 2080 agreement covers assistance in responding to calls for service, but it does not cover the partnership agency conducting routine patrol activities, for example, building checks, traffic enforcement, vacation watches, and community engagement. I know the council is big on having police presence at the community engagement, special events, which there's about a dozen a year that we all try to attend throughout our shift. Let me get back where I'm going. Whereas a Windsor Heights officer would provide these coverages while working in the union's proposed recommendation. From where the Teamsters 238 stand, we already have the people, the partnership, and the willingness to do the work. The more effective path is to invest in what we already have and not outsource it. And then I have some bulletin points that were brought up. I spent many hours on this, discussing it with the other 8 union members. So if there's questions, I can try to answer them. I'm not a bean counter. I don't know. I don't do the budget. But however, we feel that we could and will be able to take that $50,000 and use it appropriately for officer safety and other issues that will arise as a police agency. So,
Officer Nissen, just to affirm though, from the letter, the union is generally supportive of at least temporarily operating under a model of 12 sworn officers and a reduction of overtime, and the union believes they can continue to provide a high level of service at that staffing level. Is that correct?
Can I refer back to the
Amanda's seen some testimonies. Asking if he can refer back to his notes. Yeah.
So are you on paragraph 2?
Yes.
Okay.
The members believe that a temporary staffing model of 12 sworn officers is sufficient to continue providing a high level of law enforcement service to residents.
A temporary model of 12 until the city can fiscally decide if we can hire the 13th officer. Obviously, no one wants the 13th officer to leave, but for a temporary period, we would suggest that you would consider our model to engage in overtime within the city and not outsource it for a 6-month period until the budget restraints and whatnot that we all understand the city's under. So that would be kind of a 6-month period rather than handing it over to a 2080 agreement that already exists. And I can tell you that we've, as a union, we back up West Des Moines, we back up Urbandale, and we back up Clive. I'm not saying it's apples for apples, but there are instances that we've spent a large amount of time with several officers in Clive, and we're not reimbursed by Clive, and we're actually given a letter by the chief of Clive to basically call us if you guys ever need anything and thanked us for our service when the president was in town. So there's a lot of bulletin points. If I can further any of the union's views, if you have
If
questions.
I could ask just one more then.
Yeah.
So the letter goes on in paragraph 3 there. Support the model that reduces reliance on overtime, minimizes unnecessary overlap between shifts. So I guess, could you just offer some context, I guess, on what percentage of time you anticipate officers spending on calls, or how do we minimize this overtime, limit the overlap in shifts? And are there any officers' concerns, I guess, about extended time period in which they would be working patrol by themselves as the only Windsor Heights officer without any supplemental 2080, it sounds like is the preference. But I guess that's the approach in my mind with the 2080, is that it's an extra blanket of security that you have somebody to call and to provide that backup. I understand that that is there through existing mutual aid today. But if we're going to operate at 12 officers with less overtime, that means more shifts in which only one officer is working at any given time, which would lead me to believe that there would be an increase in the amount of mutual aid that's going to be called under what the union seems agreeable to, at least on a temporary basis, which is the 12 officer staffing model and reduced overtime. That, I guess I'm not hearing that that's a concern from the union. And if that's not a concern from the union, then I don't have any opposition, I guess, to maybe what's being proposed, which is try the staffing model, track the data, and if mutual aid increases, then a supplemental 2080 might be necessary to account for that increase. But I'm not hearing that maybe that increase is going to happen from the officer's perspective.
The increase in
Mutual aid calls to Windsor Heights due to us operating with 12 sworn officers and less overtime.
So
Can I ask a question just to make sure that I understand your question?
Yeah.
So like the overnight, do you want a chart, Susan? I'm doing my best here. Okay. So if there is like overnight patrol officer, we only have one. And that maybe those hours extend that we only have one. What you're saying is we would estimate that there would be more than calls for backup under our current mutual aid, our mutual response plan. And what the union is saying is that they would not anticipate there being more mutual aid response needed.
I think the underlying question is we don't have great enough data to predict how many more mutual aid calls we might make to our neighbors.
Gotcha.
If we have more extensive period of times in which there is only one officer working, which is ultimately the question and the problem that the 2080 is trying to solve for, is instances where we are down 1 or 2 additional officers and mandating currently 12-hour shifts to try to limit that gap. Instead, we're going to allow that gap to occur and have one officer working under the understanding that the call volume is not particularly a concern during the off-peak hours for that. But there are occasionally instances where you want a second officer to attend to a priority call or that two calls stack up. And that's where the supplemental aid would kick in versus the existing mutual aid.
Thank you.
And it's our stance that 100% of the union would be willing to step up, take overtime opportunities to address shortfalls. If there were a deployment or an injury or an extended leave for bereavement or whatever the case might be, we just like to see that in-house. And to reiterate on Teresa's things, some of these areas are already supported through shared jurisdiction. We have the Iowa State Patrol. We have two major corridors that go through Windsor Heights, one of which is Hickman, and it's a highway. And then Interstate 235, which is obviously they can respond. And then the other thing with the motorist assist, the accidents that Clive could potentially assist us on in emergencies. Oftentimes, we use Highway Helper. I'm sure you guys have all seen them on the side of the road. They will dispatch Highway Helper in a lot of instances and not even require an officer to be there on stalled motorists, whatever the case is. If there's one officer on, we have a pile up. Highway Helper is there usually most of the time to set back at 100 yards or so and provide a more safe working zone for the officers. I'm not sure I answered your question.
It was so I've heard you say two different things, but my discussion with you and Joe was that you guys were gonna go for 10-hour shifts, even when you were at 3. And we would just figure that out, right? I hear you saying you want the overtime. I can't pay the overtime. I gotta cut that, right? So it would be just one officer working in a longer, more than 12 hours by themselves, Monday through Friday with us as your backup, and then weekends we'd have to have a chat about that. But that's what I thought the memo was saying. And I'm sorry if I misquoted you on that.
Yeah, correct. I might have misspoke on that. It would be nice to have Joe here as a second brain, but yes. So, I mean, we're willing, obviously, he's the CEO of the department and we'd be willing to do anything within the confinements of the union to take additional overtime. And then again, I think it's redundant that we have 3 2080 agreements already in place, not to include the Iowa State Patrol. Polk County, there's instances, we had a shooting on Jefferson several years ago. And that was when it was kind of a different scenario, but we shared communications with Polk County Dispatch. We had Polk County there minutes, and then Westcom came in. But they are there to back us up if we assist them. Our tax, or the Windsor Heights tax dollars does go to Polk County, and upon our request for their assistance, we've never had especially in big situations, stabbings at Walmart, the shooting on Jefferson, they are there and they're there in numbers is kind of what I'm getting from the union and what I've seen in the past. But we'd be willing to do anything not to enter this 2080 agreement and to work with the chief on reducing overtime. And I think we would be comfortable with the 3 10-hour shifts with the potential for backup from administration, 3 potentially the 2 lieutenants and the chief in the rare circumstances that occur where we need more than 2 cars. And that does happen, but again, there are 2080 agreements in effect that do back us up in a timely manner. And we feel that's sufficient as a union.
Hey, what are we at now for overtime? Do you know?
Well, we were over the 84 percentile back in the early April. I haven't looked lately, but we'll be over the 110 that we have budgeted.
So when we talk about limited overtime, or what does that mean? I guess that's a question for either of you.
Right now, we budget 6 hours per day if we're under 4. So the proposal, I believe that the union, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, that we would eliminate the 6 hours per week. If we have 3, if we go below that, then we'll have to have, there'll be something, two will be working 12s. And then, so that will eliminate, 30 hours of overtime a week if just using that concept, and then one officer on patrol backed up by us in the office. And on the weekends, we probably would have to still have a little bit of overtime just because just there's no staff to back them up on the weekends. So we would want to have probably the 6 hours there for those 2 days.
So that means the overtime is shifting from hours of coverage to more like somebody has drill this weekend, somebody needs a day off for a family event. It's more of covering for PTO than it is.
Day off, we're below our, we're always at
Right.
minimums, 6 days out. So if someone takes the day off, we talked about PTO payouts and how we may be, redoing that, but that for a department head for PTO payouts, that saves me overtime and staff issues when they take the payout. But if we sort of adjust that in the future, they're gonna have to take the day off for relief valve when they hit that 400 hours. So you fill that with overtime, or depending on what day that is during the week. Wednesdays, we have overlap, so that's easier for us to give off, take off.
And every other weekend or every other week, they have the weekend off,
Yeah.
correct?
So our fire department runs very thin. When somebody takes a day off, they have 20-some part-time gentlemen that they can call on to fill that shift. We don't have that luxury in the police department. It just turns into overtime. And if you have a couple of officers that running patrol that are sick, vacant, then it becomes months of 12-hour shift overtimes until somebody is hired and certified.
Where does the mine officer work in all of this? We have a person that they're not here in our community, but we're paying their salary. Why aren't they part of this equation?
Sheriff's office, I don't have exact address, but he also works here down the evidence room.
He's doing undercover stuff, so he can't go drive patrol, and that's what you're asking, right?
I'm just trying to figure out why they can't, if we're already paying somebody's salary, why are they not contributing to our short staffing situation?
So I've asked this question. I have sent emails about this, questioning the mine. I tried to, what started this all was trying to search for the resolution so I could read through. Because multiple other agencies write down that, and I think it's in the one, I don't know that it's in the one that you signed. I don't know on that.
With the letterhead?
Yeah, but other patrol, like let's say Newton, they said that they will pull their mine officer if they need patrol officers, because patrolling their city is what, comes first, basically. So that was my question on that. So for me, I don't know how I can justify $120,000 salary, plus also now paying $40,000 to $70,000 for 28E agreement that we already have in place.
Sit down. You want to sit down, Nissen?
Or do you have more points? Do you want to?
There's more
review your
points. The union wanted me
Then
to,
I'll just be quiet and
Sorry,
review your points.
so I'll just kind of quickly go through them. It's maybe a 2-minute thing. So the equivalent cost that we, did at $50,000 just to make things even across the board. So we have the $50,000, the Windsor Heights officers are available and willing to work the hours. Choosing an external agreement over internal staffing. Redirects funding from your own personnel, provides no clear increase in service level, reduces organizational efficiency and control, authorized jurisdiction authority to an outside agency. These aren't answers, but they're concerns more or less that Windsor Heights officers have. The impact on the officer morale and retention, implementing this agreement is likely to impact morale within the department. Officers may reasonably interpret the decision as a lack of confidence in the ability to handle the workload demands, and authorization of the jurisdiction authority as the first step in the Windsor Heights Police Department annexing into a neighboring agency, a loss of earned overtime opportunities within the department. Long-term effects, the union believes are decreased in engagement and productivity, increased risk of attrition and retention challenges on the Windsor Heights Police Department. At a time when agencies nationwide face staffing pressures, this decision may undermine workforce stability. Redundancy of services, Windsor Heights, I'm kind of reiterating on a couple things, but we already have 28 agreement, officers routinely provide and receive mutual aid backup. The additional agreement with Clive risks being duplicated rather than an additive. And then I kind of touch base on, we have existing regional and federal support that we've used in the past, called the DCIN on the stabbing at the Walmart. They're instrumental in the interview and some things down the road, charging decisions after consulting with the county attorney. So at DPS, United States Postal Service, additional federal agencies that are luxury, and the Polk County Sheriff's Office. These collaborations have led to multiple successful prosecutions. It demonstrates that the specialized support is already accessible when needed. Entering another agreement is not required to achieve the investigative or enforcement success with Windsor Heights. I already covered the corridors and our highway helper, Polk County Sheriff's Office, upon request, and Iowa State Patrol. And I touched on highway helper. They'll be dispatched without even an officer, in some occasions, not all, and they will handle the call for us. Disabled vehicle, tire fell off, whatever the case may be. And this happens multiple times a week. So as far as strengthening your workforce, allocating funding to internal overtime training and retention is allowing officers to attend specialized training, and will increase the officer buy-in and ownership of the department roles. The union stance on the 28E agreement, if you haven't already figured that out, does not solve capability gap. It reallocates existing resources outward. It introduces more morale risks, reduces internal investment, and duplicates services already in place. Windsor Heights has and is willing and has capable officers, existing mutual aid agreements, proven access to federal resources. And then I can't give you exact numbers, but per UCR code, or Chief, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we have to pull certain cases on thefts, sex assaults, traffic accidents. It's over $1,500. There's a case pulled. There's a accident. Mars she completed. So without saying that Clive or Norwalk is pulling the exact case numbers, Clive is roughly 4 times the size of the city of Windsor Heights, and they're just over twice our case numbers. So I would argue that we operate very efficiently with what we have and the numbers of cases we're going to. I would believe Norwalk is almost the same size as Clive, and they are at the same case numbers or right around that we are at. So that's arrests, accidents, mental health trips, majority of things. So I think even, and this was talked by many union members, we're efficient. If there's issues with Westcom saying this is a 2-man call, this is a 3-man call. We were just dispatched up to the abandoned dental office on Hickman for a mental health trip, which I believe is a 3-car minimum, or 2. It is a subject that we've dealt with hundreds of times. So she's up there dealing with her now. So we can see it's it's Dave Burgess. And he's came here, multiple times. I thought he was in the room.
Pick my name.
It's not funny. I thought you were- that's okay. We can know that we have a relationship with Mr. Burgess, and we know that it's not a 2-man call. In this instance, it's an old lady
love
that
that.
we've dealt with multiple times. So we can we're intimately familiar with the community, the calls, the people we're responding to. the ways of which we respond to Walmart,
You know.
retain evidence, have an existing relationship with loss prevention, and I guess it's just, we don't feel that, bringing them in at an additional cost in which we already have an agreement with them would be fiscally responsible. And
Yes,
yeah, but
so I just want to make sure, thinking about the picture that we're talking about, if there's less overtime opportunity for the officers, because we're going to get rid of some of that mandatory overtime tack on, there'll be more times when there's just a single officer. Will that, I get that I'm asking you to speak on behalf of all the officers, but
Yeah.
that still feels like a comfortable thing of like, man, I'm the only one on shift right now, so I'm having to work a little even harder than normal, and there's fewer opportunities for overtime pay. That's still, that being the recipe still sounds,
well, I think with that $50,000 with this, no, okay.
I still gotta cut like 10-20% off that overtime.
no, I'm not saying no overtime, never, but you know, like saying just like less opportunity for overtime.
We feel that there'd be less opportunity for overtime with the 2080 agreement. I guess I don't know your question.
So,
So going to 10 hours Monday through Friday,
Mhm.
there's less opportunities for overtime when there's 3 of you working, not 4. So there would be less opportunities for overtime. We would be able to save that 6 hours per day over those 4 days, right? Because Wednesdays, usually we cover that pretty good. And then the weekends, we would have to see who's working and who's not on drill or whatever, so.
Yeah, so I can,
There would be less opportunities for overtime in your way or this way, and the 2080 still, again, we're still handling, but 90% of our stuff anyway. It's just that backup is built in to support you, not to take over your call or handle the call. It's just there when you have to go to the jail or you're down at the hospital at 3 a.m. and there's nobody in town. You know, they would still be able to figure that out, or last night when they had that barricaded subject in Urbandale across the street on Hickman, where they wanted to have our officer respond to CERT, but he couldn't go because he was the only officer here, right? So those are those areas where that would be a relief valve for us when we are faced with these unique opportunities or unique events because we're of our location in this metro area. And not just some small town out in the middle of nowhere. That's 5,000 people.
yeah, no, and I think the union understands that, but again, I think unique and rare is brought up quite a bit, in the union's disagreement with the 2080 agreement, unique and rare. I don't think CERT, I mean, I don't want to say they didn't miss Danny, but I would say that without having the numbers there, talking to the CERT supervisor, I would assume that usually more people show up on calls because that's what they train to do, and they're going to do it 1% they train monthly or whatever. So, I mean, these guys want to go to these calls. So, I mean, I would assume, I can't speak on it with 100% certainty, but I don't know that unique situation, but there are situations that come up where we do need backup, and the union stance on it is it's redundant, it's not cost effective. And the big thing I'm hearing from everybody is the morale issue. Cops think the glass is half empty. We think worst case scenario, we deal with some of the worst. But when you bring in an outside agency, it puts the fear of God that Windsor Heights Police Department is going downhill. We start to lose officers. And I think that's what's going to happen. That's the huge thing, is the morale and the lack of Windsor Heights being able to perform at a high function, which we think we can, with a bare minimum of 12. Obviously, we definitely don't want to give up the 13th officer for obvious purposes, but we also do know there's restraints. So we would be willing to take on as a union, the additional backup or overtime or whatever the case may be to make officers safe and leave out Clive as a 2080 agreement.
So Officer Nissen, I'm hearing the union isn't in favor of this.
100%.
So it talks about a structured evaluation period. Who's doing that?
Excuse me.
Who's like collecting the data? Who's doing the actual evaluating?
So the data was collected by the chief?
Oh, I gotta do that?
No,
Well, yeah, that's.
but you
so
already
if-
do it, right?
I'm
Okay,
just,
well,
I'm just asking.
I'll
I
tell Joe,
appreciate the
Joe's a numbers guy.
He's
humor.
not here, so you
but-
can throw him
Yeah, I'll
under
throw
the
him in.
bus. It's
Put
all right.
that in the memo, it's like, I'm gonna be the one doing it, so just let me, I mean,
But you already do it.
I have not drilled down to this level of minutia, but it will be done, yes, over the next 6 months.
It's very minute and in the CAD system we work with, it's not officer friendly, it's not administrator friendly. I think they're working through some bugs, but the numbers don't accurately reflect. I mean, we're getting school patrol, building checks, radar checks. Often residents from El Rancho, Wilshire, Washington, with 73rd Street being shut down, they're getting speeders. We'll sit down there for 30 minutes at a time, 15, 30, 45 minutes. So we're getting self-initiated trips that don't accurately reflect the call volume in which he was able to pull the data from at this time. So
So I hear,
I myself, if there's a way to do it, and Joe, I think the other union steward would help or do whatever we could. Again, that's how against the union is from this 20-year agreement with Clive.
Mayor, if I may, just a couple more questions. So I understand there's issues with data collection and requiring a manual manipulation or whatever. Do we have baseline numbers today to be able to say this is where we are today? So that way we'll know if there is an increase or not over the course of a 6-month period. So
The thing is that I have to show you sometime. I can't explain.
I believe you. I'm not suggesting, I'm just saying that if you're going to suggest and say that we're gonna base our information on data, then we have to be able to compare apples to apples. And as we looked earlier today, in our previous meeting, that it's really difficult to do that. So if we don't have baseline data, then I don't know how you're going to be able to compare or say there was an increase or an increase in calls if we don't even know what that is today. You understand?
What Officer Nissen is saying is that our calls for service on a daily basis includes the self-initiated calls like traffic stops, when we do school patrol, when we do a building check. It also includes the mental health checks, the welfare checks,
Sure.
tests. So what he's saying is that if we drill down even lower to low level and say, let's pull out all the calls that would not be there if the officers were busy, then it would be maybe 6 calls a day. We take, again, on the average 2 to 3 cases a day, based on our numbers, which again, is why I was estimating about 90% we'd still be able to handle. They usually come during the daytime hours. We get an odd drunk at night, but that's been very rare lately. But as we've been walking down this path, we're able to tell you how many calls per day would need a secondary officer. But you gotta give me a couple weeks to kind of give you some base numbers, because I'm going every day and every call to look at, and I have to go in 3 different places to find those numbers.
Fair enough. I'm sure it's not easy. I'm trusted. That's verified. But I'm just saying that if we're going to do this and suggest that we're going to see if look at it and determine whether or not there isn't or is not an increase, we need to know where we're starting.
I understand what you're saying, and what I'm gonna say back to you may not be the answer to your question. I will tell you this, whether I have 1 call or 50 calls, I still need 2 officers as a best practice, right? I have 2 firefighters, 3 firefighters here to fight a fire that may happen today or not. I'm just saying, the best practice is 2. I'm gonna go down to 1. No matter what, if I have 10 calls today or 2 calls today, I'm still gonna have to have I'm still gonna have to have those officers here for if that 1 call is an armed robbery, right? Or is a suicidal subject. I can't play the number game with you. The best practice is 2 per shift per day.
No,
I'm just saying, but if you want me to give you a hard number, like what it will be, I can give you an average, yeah. But give me some time.
I think what I'm saying is, I thought we were determining what the baseline was on how many times we get service from like Clive or another entity.
Look how many times we are requesting.
Requesting,
Under the 28E agreement,
yes,
that we need Clive or another agency to
Correct.
come over to us to help us as either the second officer or.
yes, that's what I thought we were talking about. That would be the data we would collect would be how many times we are provided a service under the 2080 agreement.
We're actually doing that now. There are no times, other issues coming into our,
Right.
into our city.
Requested or not requested? I mean, that would be the other thing because,
It's both. I can't tell you if they're requested or not, unless it's notated in the call. I can just see there's a unit number on the call that's not ours.
because there's multiple times I can go by and you see, both whatever, and probably just because they were engaged locally, they were there, they run by, whatever. I don't know why they do it, right? I'm just saying that it's not uncommon to see that, right? So one, I think, again, baseline data is going to be super important. So I'm going to come back to this, and I do feel like a broken record, and I'm sure you'd wish I would shut up, but that wasn't funny. Who left?
I think it was just a sharp exhale.
Okay. The mine officer. So they're an undercover officer? We are paying for an undercover officer?
They work for a task force. It's a multi-jurisdictional task force that does narcotics work.
God, we're paying for a full-time person we don't even have in our community on a full-time basis. This seems so asinine to me. You can all have your own opinions. I'm just.
I
making
understand
my
the
point.
regional approach on this and, we want to be good stewards and good neighbors, but to me, our budget just is one of those where
You're gonna.
sometimes we gotta do what we gotta do to keep our people safe, to keep our staff safe, to keep everything. So I realize you said that he can't come into the rotation because of how it's set up. I guess I'm confused because it used to be that like between the hours of 2 and 6 is when we would have one officer on shift. But now under some other schedule that I'm not sure I completely understand, now we're going to the weekends with one person on shift the whole time.
From about 11 PM to about 11 AM, Friday night to Saturday, there's one officer working.
Pete, how long is the current MOU with mine?
Oh, fun.
No,
Not because you don't have a signed.
hold on.
Sorry.
Is it like a contract?
It says we can withdraw
Okay.
the officer.
Why don't
anytime
we have a
budgeting and
meeting
staffing.
about this, to see if we want to recall this? Okay, because this is current, obviously a point of consternation. But Davidson's a detective, right? Okay, he's not going to be patrolling the streets at 3 AM, right? Okay. So
But
I guess-
as a detective, he's still, like, as detectives, they're still out there on the streets patrolling when we don't have the staffing. Cause right now, we have somebody working kind of sort of as a detective. Yeah, so he's on the streets, but he's also a detective. So that would be the same
How
thing.
many other cities have mine officers?
All of them.
everybody.
Everybody has a mine officer.
Yes.
Is he part of the 12 or are we operating at 11? Are we paying
He's
for
the
third?
12.
He's the 12, so we're operating with 11.
I mean, we do have drug cases and ones rights that need addressed. We do have traffic stops that
Mhm.
people want to see through, and we won't be able to use those resources if we pull out of line, which is fine. But we'll limit our ability to address certain types of crimes, which are very rare, but that still exist in our city.
So those aren't available through DPS, or there's not backup, or.
I mean, if drug calls usually last a long time, right? They have search warrants, they have, they cultivate undercover confidential informants, sorry, I couldn't think of the word. Takes time. So, and it takes more than one person. So if Mark comes back, he'll be a detective, general crime detective, and we have the rule for that. And then when they're shorthanded on patrol, then he does get assigned to work weekends or the short shifts by contract. So But mine was it's differently located or listed in the contract for that, so.
If we do that, does that solve our problem?
Still need to cut, still there's 13 and there's still overtime, and so I'm just looking for direction on that, so.
So if
Mark
we hired,
will still take vacations and still get hurt and still be sick, still gonna cover for open shifts, so I mean, the overtime. I am at not about $100,000 where I'm kind of at right now with 4 more payrolls to go, so. I had 110 budgeted, so about 10,000, I mean, I have about 10,000 left to go for that, for overtime currently.
and we had one person that was out for a little bit, not due to her fault, but
Yeah, we had
injuries happen.
officer was out for 3 months with an injury, an on-duty injury, and
So that kind of hurt our overtime, correct?
to have two that are in the military that we do 2 weeks annual training a year, plus their weekends that they are working, so we go short on the weekends, but.
Well, and you've been operating at 12 for 6 months.
Well, since March, since she got back to work.
Well, no, 12 officers as opposed to 13, which is what we're authorized at.
But we're authorized to hire that 13th officer in July. If, right, I mean, that's
If
been
council says
budgeted, right?
rehire that position can be rehired right now. It is budgeted for in fiscal year 27, as is the overtime. What we're trying to do here tonight is identify ways to save money beyond what's already budgeted in fiscal year 27, whether that's to operate with 12 officers or operate with 13 officers and reduce overtime through 28E, or some combination thereof.
Yes, I would just like to see how the schedules work. I realize that they're contractual, whatever they're, however that works, but for me, I'm not able to understand in my own head how it has been for as many years as I've been in the area and knowing people that they've been able to do this work. And even if you looked at the information on the slide, you know, when we were fully staffed, it was back to like 50, I don't know, Teresa, you pointed it out too. It was 60,000 of overtime. Oh, thank you. You know, so that would be $50,000 right there. That, or more, or, you know, so I'm trying to figure out how historically this has been done with 12 or 13 staff members. And now we're to this point that we're needing to basically double pay in multiple different areas. I guess for me, the 28E agreement, my understanding of it is they help us, we help them. And honestly, if it's a good call, they're sliding on over this way because no good police officer doesn't want to be in on the action. I mean, it happens. So I'm really just trying to figure out how we went from the hours of like 2 to 6 a.m. with only one staff member on, one officer on, to now 12-hour shifts on the weekend with one staff member on. So for me, I'm just not, the math just isn't mathing for me. And that could just be me reading the graphs because I'm not a nerd like Lauren. No offense. But
Taken.
Well, I can answer for the 3 years I've been here is we were shorthanded when I started, right? We had one that was not at the academy. Cody didn't start until after I did, so he's had some time in field training in 2023. We actually budgeted 10 hours a day for overtime because we spread it all the way out, so they were just here 4 hours. We worked with the union, we looked at the calls, and we cut 4 hours off because we were bringing people in on their day off, which really had an effect on morale. When you had your weekend off and you had to work, then the whole benefit of having every other weekend off is now gone. So we adjusted that down, I don't know, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, Chad, I can't remember when, but that seemed to work out for our schedule and where the calls are landing. Walmart closing at 11 during COVID. Salt took a lot of our midnight calls away. The bars have closed. We don't have a lot of, there's not the ones on University that have people there late. I think QT left and it's now Fast and Fresh and they close early. I think Maverick's the only thing open after 11 o'clock and Burger King's down. But so our calls.
They were 24
our
hours.
I
calls
thought the fire department's gonna take care of that for you.
calls that night adjusted to, we didn't need that extra coverage, so we just reallocated it down to the calls were happening. So
And-
that's why, and again, you can see in 25 that we were able to kind of minimize that when everyone was fully here and fully able to work, so. And when I came, there was another officer who was out 6 months on a broken leg, so then he or the officer, it's not be named, was not fully ready for duty until several months when I got here. So that, again, the 2 detectives were working patrol and not really working their cases. And that was also a fact of contention and low morale, is that they didn't want to work weekends. They wanted to do their job and be done and not be back on the street. So that was where it's at. That's why we adjusted those hours and the shifts.
But when fully staffed during the weekends, there's a single officer working for 8 hours, not 12.
We're fully staffed. It goes from 3 a.m. to 11 a on the next morning, yes. And that's how it was when I started.
It's actually been that way here for almost 14 years, because what happened was, there was a period of time where, as, Susan said, where we'd go from 2 until 11. But we had a canine officer that was actually scheduled until 3:30 in the morning. Because that was his shift. But what they would do is they would let him do his canine training time during that time. And so he would be off the road at 2 o'clock in the morning. And which was not ideal, because what time do the bars close? So now you have one person that's only here. And then, so on the weekend, then you would have your day shift officer that would come in at 6 or 7, just depending on, we changed the contract a couple times, and then the next officer would come in at 11. So, in theory, really, we were supposed to always have from 3 on the weekends, from 3A to 11A. You would just have that single coverage. So, but we've switched our shifts from starting time of 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Over the years, but in the 14 years that I've been here, that's pretty much how it's been. And as Chief said, I mean, I worked overnights for a lot of years. A lot of our calls came in the middle of the night. That's changed because there's nothing open in Windsor Heights anymore at that time. So.
And going back to Susan, sorry. Reason why we having this is I've been asked to try to cut that over time down, and that's one of the things I don't really have control over ish. So this is just another way a cost saving way to do that. So that's the reason why we're discussing it. So.
I get and appreciate the creative problem solving, trying to look at ways to figure out how to deal with the budget situation we find ourselves in. So if we go to less overtime, less mandatory overtime for the officers with the current number and watching the call volume, that's one of the proposals, right? And I think I would also feel comfortable if we said that after 3 months of that less overtime, more hours of single officer, that don't feel like we got to wait 6 months to have the conversation again. If after 3 months, it's like, no, this isn't, tenable, but.
I think we still need to have the talk about the 13th officer too, because.
Yeah.
I mean, as Teresa likes to say, just because it's budgeted, and I've said it multiple times myself. So just because it's budgeted doesn't mean we have to spend it, but I think we need to be fair to everybody and talk that through if that is something that we're going to do. And if so, then it's okay, maybe it's not middle of April, but I mean, it takes a little bit to get them hired. So it's not like it's you're going to go work at Maverick and I'm hired the next day after I do my little, application. So I think we need to kind of give direction that way as well as like do some benchmarks, 3, 6, 9. Because I don't know how much info we're really gonna get at that 3-month. I mean, you can see a little bit of it, like,
Sure. No, I think,
but then 6 months, you know, and just kind of doing the benchmark checks just to make sure, and also make sure that if we don't add that 13th officer on, and if we don't bring back that mine officer, then we want to also make sure that we're not putting too much stress on our staff either.
yeah, just to clarify, when I said the 3-month, I just meant that, you know, let's say, not to pick on Officer Plinus, but I know that you work a lot of overnights. That if Officer Plinus 3 months in is bringing in her belt into chief's office and saying, you got to change this or I'm out. I don't want us to feel like we have to wait 6 months to make a decision, I guess. So like after 3 months, if there's pain points or whatever, but I think 6 months is totally reasonable for good data.
It's 9 o'clock.
There is.
This is early.
It's dinner time.
Yeah, I need to eat. My sugar-
Where's the pizza?
My sugar is good.
This was a Casey's pizza.
Yeah, this has been a.
This, okay, you're looking at me, right there. I said, is this a pizza night? I said, no.
All right.
Yeah, it's not
Said
not
no.
good when there's a
AJ,
budget
not-
conversation.
AJ,
Susan and I would have told you yes.
Yes.
So,
next time. No,
it's
it's a pizza.
are we entering the structured evaluation period?
The 6 months, the instead of the 28E doing the staff, yes.
And how are we collecting the data? And how are we analyzing it?
There's a daily report that was received every day, and the group of us will sit down, go through that data. We'll make sure with our union members that we are incredibly diligent about marking when the dispatch call is received, when you arrive on scene, when you leave the scene. These are all parts of it too, to help determine the call duration. But I think the point of clarification then is, if we're going to do the data evaluation, are we collecting this data at 12 officers with our current schedule, which includes the mandated overtime to limit the amount of times that we are operating with one? Or are we going down to a different model where we're reducing overtime? Because that point of collection is going to determine our baseline, right? Is our baseline exactly what we're doing today? Or is our baseline reducing the overtime? Or is our baseline 13 officers and our current practice on overtime? I mean, we need to understand where you'd like to get that point of comparison if we ever do change the model.
I believe the letter says reduces reliance on overtime, right?
Yeah, so let me, sure, so we're going ahead and employ the new staffing model for us, according to what the union outlined. Collect the data and then come back in 3 to 6 months. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, right? Yes.
That's what I understand, but I think it's very important that we're all on the same page on that.
I'll leave that, I'll mess with that and then, okay, want to make sure.
Does that sound appropriate? I mean, does that sound right from your guys' perspective?
Yes, and just to reiterate, I mean, kind of what I'm hearing with everybody 100% from the union is, rather than allocating that money to flies, we're willing to work in-house to solve whatever problems or scheduling issues we have with the chief. And myself, Officer Palmer, some of the more senior people have agreed, whether it's convenient or not, if overtime's offered at night and it's gonna screw up a day or two, we're willing to do that rather than have the 20 agreement signed with client. We'll hold up to that, and if we don't, I think it's gonna slap us in the face, and we're gonna have a 20 agreement, and I believe our we like to do the tryout model first, and we respect you guys taking our consideration in that as well.
I would be remiss if I did not voice a concern about, I would hope there would never be a reluctance to call for mutual aid.
There isn't, but I can also tell you this.
I'm talking about in the future, as this will likely be a evaluation point right?
Are you saying don't skew the data?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That sounds nefarious.
Well,
And
I think there's two.
it's about safety. So,
Well, Wesleyan dispatches it too sometimes. I mean.
We'll track the data from SOP from Westcom, but also the reality of the situation. And there are times where you don't actually need the backup. But I think we need both data points to understand.
okay.
We are the city that, it was hard to me when I was at TO, we do not respond to calls from other cities unless you are requested by the city. When they're West Des Moines and Clyde will flood in, and like Susan said, who doesn't want to go lights and sirens and go to a hot call and not get any paper out of it or have to report. That's how the majority of the officers are, especially the younger ones. That's what happened with stabbing. That's what happened on multiple other occasions. So
We have 6 West Des Moines officers on staffing. We didn't even.
Clear? Good on your end? At least for union's purposes? Okay, council? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
Joseph Jones, Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.